Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Vote.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to stop.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a special Sunday morning edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dokoupil, of course.
Hello.
It is late night in Thailand, mid-morning here on the East Coast of the United States of what once was the United States of America, I should say.
Yes. The new and improved United States of America.
That's right. That's right. Thank you all for accommodating the time switch. Snow is falling at a very rapid pace already here in upstate New York. I am anticipating big problems with power and internet later on in the evening, which is why in an abundance of caution, we moved the show so we could get it in. So thank you all for making that switch for us. Appreciate you all being here. Big crowd in here to start things off. 746 strong in the YouTube chat, 251 over on Rumble. Those are evening type numbers. You know, Sunday morning's good time for politics. Russell has a theory. People are conditioned to follow the news at this time. This is when the morning shows are on.
Meet the round tables
and all that. Exactly. So please make sure you smash that like button. Help us get an even bigger crowd in here this morning. I want to start with something light and funny, since we are short on light and funny material today. And this is light and yeah. It's kind of a heavy show. And even this segment has some dark undertones, shall we say. Of course, we're doing a morning show here because of the winter storm that is really encompassing half of the country. I mean, so much of the country is on watch for high winds, high snowfalls, frigid temperatures. And of course, the Department of Homeland Security is in charge of the response to this. FEMA is under DHS. But DHS is telling their people, despite the winter storm and wintry weather, that they should avoid using the word ice for some reason. Let's take a look.
Some interesting reporting on guidance that FEMA was given about messaging for the storm.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. So I've learned that Homeland Security officials have come to FEMA staff and told them to limit the use of the word ice in their public messaging and social media posts when talking about the storm. The concern is obviously the connection between the immigration enforcement that's happening across the country, particularly in Minnesota, and what they are worried about here is that by posting something like "watch out for the ice," that it's going to become an opportunity for a meme, for internet fodder, for public ridicule against the Department of Homeland Security. So they're asking FEMA staff, if you can, don't use the word ice, try to use the term freezing rain. But part of the problem here, as I talk to agency officials...
You know, wouldn't it be easier to just change the name of the agency? Just change the name of the agency. Instead of ICE, just call them homos, right? This way on the streets, you can say, hey, watch out for the homos, you know, and then you could still say, watch out for the ICE, right? You don't have to change it. This would be the other way around. It'd be like saying, so make sure you drive slow. There's a lot of homos on the road. You don't want to slip on one, you know? You can just change the name of ICE.
There you go. You know, I posted something about MAGA bootlickers, And somebody, I got a lot of response. You get a lot of feelings from these queers from that. And one of them actually literally unironically posted a whole thing with a picture of Trump saying, don't you think maybe the problem is that all these adult children and juveniles needed a strong daddy, and now they're throwing a tantrum because Trump came in and he's being their daddy? I had a one-word response. It was one I can't say on YouTube. We'll say bundle of sticks was my response. Like, dude, come on, man. Come on.
I mean, it's
just,
crazy.
Just come out. Just come out. They're gay conservatives, man. Like, that's okay. It's okay. It's it's 2026, man. You can be both. You can be a right-wing fanatic and you can suck cock too.
That's right. That's right. Well, there's a realignment happening, obviously, as we'll see as it pertains to this ICE shooting. Seems like the Democrats are now taking the pro-Second Amendment mantle. So maybe the Democrats, maybe they could trade. Maybe the Democrats can be the party of gun rights and the conservatives can be the party of gay marriage moving forward. That seems like maybe a more natural fit at this point, for the two parties. Look, these parties change, right? Parties change over time. It can happen. Let's keep going here.
Rule against the Department of Homeland Security. So they're asking FEMA staff, if you can, don't use the word ice, try to use the term freezing rain. But part of the problem here, as I talk to agency officials about this, is they're saying what we're talking about is ice. And
Yeah,
what
it's
we're
not
talking about is
freezing rain.
saving lives.
Yeah, no, when you say freezing rain, that makes me think, oh, I'll put on a raincoat. It
Right.
doesn't make
Yeah.
me think ice.
Right, and what we're largely talking about, and I'm not a forecaster, but this is largely an ice event. And a lot of states that I've talked to are saying what we're preparing for is destructive ice that could damage power grids, cut power to a lot of homes and wreak havoc on roads. And it is pretty remarkable that Homeland Security is saying, please try to avoid using that word.
Because they're afraid of memes. Meanwhile, lives are on the line. Another incredibly idiotic story. Thanks so much.
It's been a long week for Jake Tapper, I guess. He's another. What a country. I could just see Kristi Noem giving that direction. Now, let's refrain from using the word ice because we don't want the libs to start memeing us. Don't want to make it too easy for them.
I must say, and I knew with some certainty that it was going to strike me this way when I watched all this from outside the country. Yeah, it's a fucking madhouse. No people on earth behave this way. Like, no people on earth behave this way. No, there is no country I've ever been to where this would even be something anyone would think of having a conversation about.
Yeah.
Like any country that I've ever been to, man, if a political leader said something like this, they would laugh. And the more the possible exceptions are all Anglophone countries. Like, you could kind of see some shit like that maybe in England or maybe in Australia. Probably not. It's too batshit for them. Like, this is very, like, you gotta be, it's like rich people. We've talked about it. When we tour guided, like, the craziest people you're ever going to get are going to be rich people because they have no restraints. They don't have the restraints that keep people who have to hold down a job or are dependent on the goodwill of others from going completely insane. Like, rich people can just act however they want. And that can get really bizarre. That's America. Yeah, that's America. It's the privilege to be that crazy. It's just not. Here, Thailand, obviously, they have their own problems, a lot of which I'm not informed about, I'm sure. But, man, people basically land of smiles. It's true. And psychologically, a country where the way that people constantly address each other is with a submissive gesture of respect and friendliness, that does something to the way that the whole people think. Right. If everywhere you go, it's like you're showing appreciation, you're showing kindness. That's reinforcing a certain way of thinking. I'm not saying, oh, it's Shangri-La, it's perfect, but it's very different. It's very different from, America where what the fuck do you want?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
To have a whole culture and because Buddhism, like 95% of the culture is Buddhism, I think that probably partly is growing out of that. But that aside, I mean, that's this specific place. The idea that you'd be having conversations like this, the idea that you'd be having leaders like this. Yeah, America is a batshit crazy rich person.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You just see them in the Situation Room. Madam Secretary, some bad news. John Favreau just owned us on X.
Yeah.
he just ratioed us.
Right.
We left ourselves wide open for that one. We said, watch out for the ice.
Well, that memo leaked.
Gonna have to correct this moving forward.
After Charlie Kirk, Patel and Bongino were most concerned about how they were going to handle social media.
Right. Right.
This is what happens when you get a cabinet full of ex-Fox News hosts and podcasters.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, we got, like I said, big crowd in here so far. 1302 strong in the YouTube chat. 372 filing in over on Rumble. Why don't we jump right into things? We obviously have a lot to get to. We will be doing the Q&A after the show today. And we were planning on doing Film Club tomorrow. We are going to push that back a week since we're still under state of emergency. I would rather just do it at a time when everybody can watch it as opposed to when, half the country might be under power outages or whatever. Especially since those are kind of like one night only events. So if that gets pushed into February, we'll do 2 in February to make it up, but we'll take a snow check or an ice check, or as the DHS would say, a homo check. Now, so everybody can watch it who's a member. But Q&A after the show today, just like always. All right, let's get into things. So more horrible news out of Minneapolis, of course. Breaking yesterday morning, January 24th, another person shot in Minneapolis. So here is the far angle. This was the first angle to sort of break on this.
Man, and they keep pushing people,
Oh shit! What the fuck? They killed him? Did they fucking kill that guy? Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Not again. Are you fucking kidding me? That guy's dead. Yo, we need people on site.
So it's very tough to see what's going on from that angle. I'm not going to show you every single angle of this. I'll show you the important ones. I was, of course, glued to Twitter all day yesterday. I probably watched this 100 different times. Great way to spend a day home with the kids, watching on replay and ICE execution in the streets. But I'll show you guys what I feel is the most important stuff, of course. Man fatally shot by federal agent in Minneapolis, identified as ICU nurse Alex Preddy. Pardon me. Alex Preddy, the Minneapolis man fatally shot by a federal agent Saturday, was a 37-year-old ICU nurse whose family remembered him as a kind-hearted soul who cared deeply for the patients he served at a Veterans Affairs facility. We'll read the entire statement from his parents at the end of this segment. Preddy was shot just before 9 a.m. after a heated confrontation between agents and protesters who opposed the government's immigration enforcement tactics, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said at a news conference. The Department of Homeland Security said officers with U.S. Border Patrol were conducting an operation when they were approached by an armed Minneapolis resident. So this is the DHS's version of events. An agent shot him in self-defense after he violently resisted efforts to disarm him, the department said, without providing evidence. O'Hara said that local officials believe the man was a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry. Family members told the Associated Press that Preddy owned a handgun and a concealed carry permit in Minnesota. His death comes, of course, less than 3 weeks after Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed by a U.S. ICE officer in Minneapolis. So let's take a look. This was another video. This was kind of the second clip to go viral after that first main angle. This is moments before the shooting where you can see his first contact with the ICE officers on the street.
Yeah, unroll your windows. No, you're just right inside.
You can see, got the camera in his hand.
Go around. Fuck off! No, you're just right inside.
See if we can pause it again. Yeah, so you see he's got a camera in his hand, filming in his right hand. Doesn't appear to be anything in the left hand. Okay, so now this is a clearer angle where you can see kind of the sequence of events. So what happens is there's another woman there who's filming. The ICE goon comes up to the woman and, like an animal, pushes her onto the ground. This guy goes to help her up. That's when the scuffle starts. So that's what we could see from this angle here. So let's take a look at this angle. You can also see they pause it at certain points here where we're going to see, very importantly, what looks like an ICE guy in a gray sweatshirt taking the gun off of Preddy's person before the shots are fired. Now, as you'll see in the video, zero evidence from any angle that this guy reached for his gun at any point. None. I mean, there's absolutely no angle that shows anything like what DHS is trying to have you believe, which is that he used the weapon to threaten them in some way. So they push her over, then they come after him. So they just pause that there. Now watch the guy in the gray jacket there.
Right.
I'm not pausing it. This is the video has it paused. So the guy in the gray reaches into the pile. Okay, now if you see there where it's paused, you can see right there where it's paused, he's got the gun in his right hand. And you can kind of hear, it's very loud, it's very chaotic, but you can kind of hear somebody yelling, gun, 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 and then he grabs it. There it is. Zoom in. So he has the gun. Replay that. And then more shots. Now, we don't know this at this point, but it almost looks like he may squeeze the trigger and fire the first shot with the gun that he just took off the guy. We don't know that, but it seems like the first shot is fired right after he emerges with the guy's gun.
Right.
And then after that, you have several more shots fired. So that is kind of the clearest angle in terms of where that gun came from and where it went, of course. And now after the shooting, this from the Tennessee Holler, you can hear officers searching the guy for the gun, saying, "Where's the gun?" Tennessee Holler writes, because they don't realize one of them had already taken it before the shots. So what it looks like happened is someone screamed, "Gun, gun." The guy in the gray grabs the gun. Another idiot shoots him. And then they're thinking, oh boy, where's the gun? Because they know they just fucked up because the guy had no gun at the time that they shot him. Where's the gun? So now it's going to go back. Once again, the guy in the gray jacket takes the gun. There he is. Zoom in. And then more shots go off, but you could see here afterwards. Where's the gun? Where's the gun? Because they realized the guy had no gun at the time. So Department of Homeland Security says at 9:05 Central Time, as DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal wanted for violent assault, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, seen here. So right away, the implication is that he came to them with the weapon out, which of course is not true. We've seen that now from multiple angles. He simply had a phone. The officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted. Again, not true at all. Not true at all. In fact, it's pretty obvious they didn't even know he had the gun until they started fighting with him, because he tried to help the woman up who they threw onto the ground. There's no indication based on what we're seeing that they had any knowledge that he even had a gun on him. So it wasn't that they tried to disarm him and he resisted. That's simply false. More details on the armed struggle are forthcoming. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics on scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but was pronounced dead at the scene. The subject also had 2 magazines and no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Is that what it looked like to you? We just showed you the video.
Yeah.
We just showed you from multiple angles. About 200 rioters arrived at the scene and began to obstruct and assault law enforcement on the scene. Crowd control measures were deployed for the safety of public and law enforcement. The situation is evolving. More information is forthcoming. So here is Greg Bovino, the head honcho out there on the scene, describing essentially the DHS party line on this.
During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID.
See, so he's pretty much reading the tweet.
This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
Yeah, literally just reading that statement.
I mean, but kudos to the administration giving that job to a butch lesbian.
yeah, exactly. It's very woke of them.
It's really off script for them.
Yeah. So, of course, this got community noted, even on Elon's X. Video shows the man holding a phone, not a gun, when federal agents took him down. He was a U.S. citizen and legal gun permit holder. So here's Kristi Noem giving a press conference and taking some time out of storm prep to address the recent shooting.
Take any questions and give more details on the storm and its impact. I do want to address the tragic situation that we saw in Minneapolis today that unfolded on the streets. It occurred with DHS law enforcement as they carried out their lawful duties to keep Americans safe in the threat of criminal illegal aliens in this country. At 9:05 a.m. Central Time, the Department of Homeland Security law enforcement officials and officers were conducting targeted operations in Minneapolis against an illegal alien whose criminal history included domestic assault with intentionally inflicting bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license.
It sounds like he'd be a good fit at ICE. Were they going to deport this guy, or did they want to recruit him? Was this a recruitment mission? Because it sounds like, driving without a license, disorderly conduct, wife beating. Sounds like a nice officer to me. Sounds like he would have fit right in.
Yeah.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots.
Again, just reading.
Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene.
Too lazy to even talk.
This is what you call agreeing on your story.
Exactly.
He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage
I mean,
on
it's
individuals and to kill law
like a
enforcement.
Daily Show segment where they all just say the same exact thing.
Yeah,
right?
no,
I mean, that's literally.
this is what the legal people told them.
Yeah.
Just these are your talking points.
Yep. Those are the talking points. Stick to that. Well, a reporter actually asked her, but did he brandish the gun? Because, of course, in Minnesota, you're allowed to carry a concealed weapon. So the act of having a gun on you does not make you a criminal. A statement that is really foundational to conservative ideology. I mean, I've never heard a conservative argue any different. So let's see what she has to say.
Thank you so much for doing this, and would welcome also any other guidance from Chief Scott. Did the 37-year-old who had a license to carry, did he brandish a gun? And at what point did law enforcement retrieve the gun and also the magazines from him? Can you offer clarity on
This
where
individual showed up to impede a law enforcement operation and assaulted our officers. They responded according to their training and took action to defend the officer's life and those of the public around him. And I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers.
Because video of
I mean, that sounds like something a Democrat might say in years prior, right?
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like the Democrats' argument against Kyle Rittenhouse, you know? Hey, what were you bringing a gun to that protest if you weren't looking for trouble? What is the problem with carrying a gun? I mean, that's what Republicans
Which he
say all
did
the
not
time.
brandish.
No, which he did not brandish. So here's United States Attorney Bill Asaley says, if you approach law enforcement with a gun, there's a high likelihood they will be legally justified in shooting you. Don't do it. Another community note, the U.S. Constitution, particularly the 2nd, 4th, and 14th Amendments, prohibit officers from shooting citizens merely for possessing a weapon that is not an imminent threat. This was reaffirmed in Graham versus Connor, which says force must be reasonable. So the NRA took issue with this statement. This sentiment from the first assistant U.S. attorney for the Central District of California is dangerous and wrong. Responsible public voices should be awaiting a full investigation, not making generalizations and demonizing law-abiding citizens. Thomas Massey says carrying a firearm is not a death sentence. It's a constitutionally protected God-given right. And if you don't understand this, you have no business in law enforcement or government. David Leavitt says, hey, MAGA, your President Donald Trump believes if you have a gun, you're a criminal. Wonder what the NRA thinks about this, referring to Trump's Truth Social. He had a gun.
They've been strangely silent on this.
Yeah. Only criminals carry guns on our streets. We need law and order. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Again, a quote, he had a gun. Only criminals carry guns on our streets. Donald Trump with the picture of Rittenhouse. Now, look, I want to be consistent because while I did not think Kyle Rittenhouse was guilty, I thought there was nowhere near proof beyond a reasonable doubt of his guilt. I did say that it was ill-advised for him to bring that weapon to a scene like that. I'm always of the opinion that it's ill-advised to bring a gun into a situation like that. So do I think it was the best idea to be walking around with a gun there? No. I know people on both sides of the populist spectrum hate this kind of thing, but it is far more likely that when you own a gun and when you bring a gun into a situation, that either that gun will be used against you or that a situation will escalate to the point where deadly force is used against you. Guns do not make you safer, generally. They make situations much more volatile and much less safe. And I know people have big problems with that. I know in saying that we're going to get 50 people in the comment section talking about how I never shot a gun, this, that. Okay, listen, find yourself a therapist, preferably a female therapist, so you don't fall for her, so you don't develop feelings for her. You'll fall in love with a male therapist, and that's just going to make your problems worse. So find yourself a female therapist and work it out with her. But yeah, no, I mean, do I think it's the best judgment to be bringing a gun around? No, I don't. But the fact is, it's the law. Like that's like you're allowed to do it. This is America. Americans love guns. The law of the land in Minnesota is you're allowed to carry a gun, which means the fact that he had a gun on him is not in itself grounds to do what they did. And the other thing is, we've seen the video. We've seen that they didn't attack him because they saw he had a gun. They attacked him because he was filming them and helping a woman who had just been pushed to the ground for filming them. That's what initiated the confrontation. Had nothing to do with a gun. The gun was not visible. The gun was not anywhere to be seen in any video from any angle. They didn't even realize he had the gun until they started fighting with him down on the floor. And there's absolutely zero evidence from any angle that he took the gun out at any point. So no matter how you feel about guns, I personally don't think carrying a gun around makes you more safe in a situation like this. I think it makes you less safe. I think this situation is tragic proof of that, or at least evidence for it. But that's beyond the point. In this country, people love their guns. People want to be able to carry guns. In Minnesota, it's the law. You're allowed to carry your guns. And so that's really not a point that, well, he had a gun on him, and so he must have been a criminal. No, that's not an argument. Of course, that's not an argument.
Yeah, we all get a little sad sometimes.
Yeah,
it's kind of better not to have that in the house. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, there are all kinds of. I mean, if you look at the,
sticking your head in an oven, that's a woman's way to go out.
It's a woman's way out.
Most men won't do it, but you put that in the house, people think it's badass. You know.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, if you
it makes it a little too
statistics-
easy. That's why Batman doesn't use guns.
Yeah,
Makes
exactly.
it too easy to kill. That's why.
Well, look, I mean, if
messes
you look
with
at
those
the stats,
batarangs and shark repellent and all that stuff.
You're always more likely to have a terrible situation when there is a gun around. You're far less likely to actually use it for self-defense than you are that's going to get turned around on you someday.
Then you're gonna, especially a situation like that.
Right.
Like there's no, you're dealing with an extra constitutional Gestapo Nazi half bright bunch of fascist bully boys who, as you could see from this situation, have no meaningful training, qualifications, judgment, or accountability, which is key. Stephen Miller literally more than once has declared to them, you're good, do whatever the fuck you want. So you take the kind of people who would agree to do this job, which they're not bringing their best. And yeah, man, you have a gun, you got a very good chance they're going to kill you. There's nothing you're going to do with that gun. That's going to
There's nothing you're going to do.
The situation.
Exactly.
The only thing I would say is if you're in one of these concealed carry states, I'm not clear that he showed up to protest or if he just happened to be in the area at the time, because he could just be somebody who walks around with his gun. You know?
Could be.
I mean, it's being in New York. That's not something we do, but in these parts of the country, they do that. You just have your gun on you like you would have your keys on you, right? Like he wasn't necessarily thinking in terms of bringing it to the protest to act in the protest. In fact, given his profile, I'd be surprised if that's what he was thinking.
Well, I think he was there filming. I mean, I don't know what they call them, legal observers. I mean, it looked like he was intent on filming. So, but like, whatever, like, I don't even want to like parse it too much, because the fact of the matter is, like, under the law in accordance with the wishes of every conservative in America until yesterday, you're allowed to have that gun on your person. That make you a suspect.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That is hilarious to see conservatives jumping up. They shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been
there.
They shouldn't have had a gun.
Problem isn't ICE, it's the protesters.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Who has the because he has a weapon on him. Yeah.
Wow.
It's really pathetic stuff.
What hypocrites. Oh my God. Oh
Yeah.
my God. If that had been a Democrat saying that, if they had killed a right winger and the Democrats said, well, he shouldn't have been there. Oh my God, they'd go berserk. They'd go ballistic. I mean, at that point, you have no politics. You have just like libs, man. You have stuff that you like to signal that you believe because it makes you feel less lonely to connect with other broken people like you by signaling that you have the same beliefs and you're part of a group. but it is no group. It's in your fucking imagination. You know what your group is? It's 50 phones hooked up to wires in Romania. That's
Right.
your group that you're a part of. You're not part of anything. It's an illusion. It's a matrix. They're just trapping your mind while they strip mine the country with this kind of provocation.
Yep. So let's take a look at some more witness accounts here. Alex Preddy did not brandish gun, witnesses say in sworn testimony. A pair testified that Preddy did not hold weapon and was trying to help woman federal agents had shoved to the ground. Two witnesses to the killing of Alex Preddy have said in sworn testimony that the 37-year-old intensive care nurse was not brandishing a weapon when he approached federal agents in Minneapolis on Saturday, contradicting a claim made by Trump administration officials as they sought to cast the shooting of a prone man as an act of self-defense. Their accounts came in sworn affidavits that were filed in federal court in Minnesota late Saturday, just hours after Preddy's killing, as part of a lawsuit brought by the ACLU on behalf of Minneapolis protesters against Kristi Noem and other Homeland Security officials directing the immigration crackdown in the city. So just to clear this up, because these tweets kind of circulated, one by Brian Allen, one by John Favreau, in response to some reporting by the Star Tribune. Star Tribune reports ICE agents have taken multiple witnesses into custody in Minneapolis. Let that sink in. They didn't just shoot a man. Now they're detaining the people who saw it happen. So I looked for follow-ups on this. It seems likely, based on the lack of follow-up reporting on this, that was probably a misunderstanding, that the witnesses probably went to the courthouse so they could give these statements and sign these affidavits. That was probably mistaken for them having been taken into custody, because it seems like this was done in the court building. One witness is a woman who filmed the clearest video of the fatal shooting. The other is a physician who lives nearby and said they were initially prevented by federal officers from rendering medical aid to the gunshot victim. The names of both witnesses were redacted in the publicly available findings. So the first is from this woman here in the pink who did film the event with her phone. So we'll take a look at what appears to be her footage based on the angle. This seems to be that woman based on everything we can sort of piece together. This is her video.
Right, yeah. That's
So
really disturbing.
Yeah, so you could see it from her point of view where she was standing. So she had the clearest and most up-close view of this. One woman is a woman who filmed the clearest video of the fatal shooting. The other is a physician who lives nearby and said they were initially prevented by federal officers from rendering medical aid to the gunshot victim. Oh, got this one already, right? Sorry.
Yep.
There you go. It's a double. She described the harrowing scene of Preddy being tackled by federal officers after coming to the aid of another observer the agents had shoved to the ground. One federal agent then sprayed a chemical agent in the faces of Preddy and the woman he had tried to help. The woman testified that she saw no sign of Preddy holding a gun at any point. So the documents themselves were actually tweeted out, so we can actually read a little bit from her affidavit itself here. We'll read a little bit of it, not the whole thing for time purposes. The agents pulled the man on the ground. I didn't see him touch any of them. He wasn't even turned toward them. It didn't look like he was trying to resist, just trying to help the woman up. I didn't see him with a gun. They threw him to the ground. 4 or 5 agents had him on the ground, and they just started shooting him. They shot him so many times. I don't know why they shot him. He was only helping. I was 5 feet from him, and they just shot him. I have read the statement from DHS about what happened, and it is wrong. The man did not approach the agents with a gun. He approached them with a camera. He was just trying to help a woman get up, and they took him to the ground. I feel afraid, she says. Only hours have passed since they shot a man right in front of me, and I don't feel like I can go home because I heard agents were looking for me. I don't know what the agents will do when they find me. I do know that they're not telling the truth about what happened. I've heard that other witnesses might have been arrested and taken to the Whipple building. Okay. The second witness, there was no further reporting on that. The second witness, a 29-year-old physician, said in their testimony that they saw the shooting from their apartment window near the scene. Before the shooting, the witness said they could see Preddy yelling at agents, but did not see him attack the agents or brandish a weapon of any kind. After the shooting, when the physician attempted to render medical aid, they were initially prevented from doing so. At first, the ICE agents wouldn't let me through, they said. But none of the ICE agents who were near the victim were performing CPR, and I could tell that the victim was in critical condition. I insisted that ICE agents let me assess him. When the physician finally convinced the agents to let them through, they said they were confused as to why the victim was on his side, but instead of checking his pulse or performing CPR, the officers appeared to be counting his bullet wounds. Yeah, they were covering their ass. They were seeing what the hell they just did. The victim had at least 3 bullet wounds in his back, the doctor said, in addition to one in his upper left chest and another possible gunshot wound in his neck. So here is another statement from this second witness, who was not a protester. So this was a bystander who then tried to get involved to help the victim. On January 24th at approximately 9 a.m. Central Time, I was awoken by the sound of cars honking and whistles blowing. Shortly after I awoke, I heard screaming from outside my window. I saw several ICE agents and civilians yelling at each other. One civilian was standing in front of a parked car on the side of the road. I saw him yelling at the ICE agents, but I did not see him attack the agents or brandish a weapon of any kind. Suddenly, an ICE agent shoved him to the ground. My view of the altercation was partially obstructed, but after a few seconds, I saw at least 4 ICE agents point guns at the man. I then saw the agent shoot the man at least 6 or 7 times. Initially, I was stunned. From what I could see from my apartment, there was absolutely no need for any violence, let alone lethal force by multiple officers. I immediately put on my boots and coat, ran outside, and approached ICE agents who were near the victim. The victim had at least 3 bullet wounds in his back. I asked the ICE agents to turn the victim from his side to his back. From that position, I saw an additional gunshot wound on the victim's upper left chest and another possible gunshot wound in his neck. I checked for a pulse, but I did not feel one. I immediately began CPR. Shortly after I started compressions, EMS personnel arrived and took over. I remained at the scene for about 5 more minutes, but protesters began to gather and the situation seemed to be escalating, so I left and returned to my apartment. So this was today, this morning, as we start the show early today. The Sunday morning shows are in progress. Here is Dana Bash grilling Greg Bovino to provide any evidence that Alex Preddy, quote, assaulted law enforcement, which seems to be the story that they are still keen to go with. So let me see. Hold on 1 second. Did I get this one? No, I think I got to load this one. 1 second, folks. Sorry about that. Because I just added this at the last minute. So let me see if I can find it here. There it is. Got it. Okay. Here we go.
No evidence that he was perpetrating violence. And there's no evidence, unless you have it, and we'd love to see it if there is, that he was intending to massacre law enforcement, other than the fact that he was there and he had a gun lawfully.
He meant to be there beforehand. Again, Dana, he came there beforehand.
How do you know that?
For a reason.
How do you know that?
Because he was there.
But all he was doing was filming and documenting it, which is legal. He was carrying a gun, which in Minneapolis is legal.
I didn't say it wasn't.
So then what's your point? He was there. Yeah, he was there filming, as is his right. So if you concede that that's his right, then why was he pushed to the ground? Why are ICE agents acting like animals, shoving women to the ground for holding a camera up to what they're doing? We've seen this over and over and over again. These ICE agents just acting like absolute belligerent lunatics for no reason whatsoever. That's what started this.
And I didn't say it wasn't legal.
So then what did he do that was illegal?
Assault federal law enforcement when he does that. That's
he
an
didn't.
Active law enforcement crime scene.
Where do you see in the video that he was assaulted?
How is it a crime scene? In what way is it a crime scene? It's a crime scene now that you guys killed a man. This was not a crime scene. They were on an operation to arrest some illegal immigrants who beat his wife or perhaps recruit him into ICE, since his resume seems to be something they look for in people. But
or
there was
maybe
no
help
crime
him
scene.
get out of a jewel heist charge.
Yeah, right, exactly. There was no crime scene. There was no crime scene whatsoever. If you concede they have a right to film, which he just did, then there was no crime scene. There was no crime. This was a total creation of these Keystone Cop amateur hour backbenchers.
Enter into.
Where do you see in the video that he was assaulting law enforcement? Because from everything we have seen, law enforcement was assaulting him when he was there trying to help another individual.
Dana, law enforcement doesn't assault anyone. Follow directions of law enforcement. Follow directions of law enforcement in an active crime scene.
Again, was not an active crime scene. They went up to this woman, they shove her onto the grounds, and then he helps her up. I know what you're
It's very
talking about,
evident
crime
he
scene.
didn't want to do
It's,
that.
it's funny
Very
how Dana
evident
sees
that-
these things when it's not the IDF involved.
Yeah, when it's not the IDF doing it. Exactly.
The other individuals didn't want to do that, and it's too bad the consequences had to be paid because he injected himself into that crime scene. I can't say that enough. He made the decision to go there. We didn't make the decision to talk to him. We didn't even know that individual was in existence until he came into that crime scene.
So what they're saying, first of all, there is no, I don't know what he's talking about crime scene. There is no crime scene there. There is no crime scene there. I mean, by that definition, the whole city is a crime scene, which is really what they're saying. What they're saying is you shouldn't come anywhere near us. You shouldn't protest. You shouldn't film us. You shouldn't follow us. You shouldn't get close to us. Just don't come anywhere near us. Hey, we didn't force the guy to come out there that day. He came out there that day. What they're saying is anybody who comes out to protest is fair game. That's exactly what he's saying. This gobbledygook about a crime scene is nonsense. He admits 30 seconds earlier that it's not a crime to film them. So what they're saying is you put your life in your hands when you protest. You put your life in your hands if you put yourself in the vicinity of one of these maniac ICE officers. That's the message he's sending there, unmistakably.
Well, that's what the assistant director of ICE said on 60 Minutes. He said we have the right to stop and question anybody. Everybody's under suspicion. So at that point, everyone is a suspect and everyone can be treated as such.
Yep. So Stephen Miller chimes in. Obviously, we heard a little bit from Trump. We'll hear more from Trump in the next segment. We heard from Kristi Noem. Stephen Miller says a domestic terrorist tried to assassinate federal law enforcement. And this is your response, responding to Amy Klobuchar's tweet about this. You and the state's entire Democrat leadership team have been flaming the flames of insurrection for the singular purpose of stopping the deportation of illegals who invaded the country. So this is who they're calling a domestic terrorist. Here's a guy who was a registered nurse at a VA ICU. Here he is reading some final words for a veteran he cared for at a VA hospital. Video courtesy of this veteran's son who published this.
You guys go ahead and stand right over there. Terrence Lee Randolph, March 30th, 1947, December 10th, 2024. Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it. May we never forget and always remember our brothers and sisters who have served so that we may enjoy the gift of freedom. So in this moment, we remember and give thanks for their dedication and selfless service to our nation in the cause of our freedom. In this solemn hour, we render them our honor and our gratitude.
Wow. He was clearly Antifa.
Yeah. This is the guy they think they're going to be able to smear as a domestic terrorist. So here's a statement from the family of Alex Preddy, Michael and Susan Preddy. These are his parents. We are heartbroken, but also very angry. Alex was a kind-hearted soul who cared deeply for his family and friends, and also the American veterans whom he cared for as an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA hospital. Alex wanted to make a difference in this world. Unfortunately, he will not be with us to see his impact. I do not throw around the hero term lightly, pardon me. However, his last thought and act was to protect a woman. The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked by Trump's murdering and cowardly ICE thugs. He has his phone in his right hand and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman ICE just pushed down, all while being pepper sprayed. Please get the truth out about our son. He was a good man. Thank you. So obviously, just a horrible story.
Losing your son that way.
Yeah, you live your whole life. They're obviously, elderly now, and you lose your son in that way, only to have these fucking worthless pieces of shit try and lie and spin about how he somehow had it coming. It's not going to work. We're going to get into this more in the next segment, which focuses more on the response to this, but this in a way is even more obvious than the Renee Good killing, because in this case, there was no big car coming in the general direction of a guy who brushed up against it and may have panicked and boom, fires a shot. And I don't want to parse it too much because that was, of course, nowhere near a justified killing either. But with this, there's never even that moment where you could say, well, he panicked and did something he shouldn't have done. There's not that. They pick a fight with this woman. He goes to help. They pick a fight with him. They discover he has a gun when he's on the floor. He never reaches for the gun. You're not going to convince people that he reached for the gun when we've seen this from multiple angles. There's absolutely zero indication that the guy ever reached for the gun. Now, if you don't want people bringing guns to these things, well, then that undoes about 40 years of conservative advocacy, because it is these people who insist that people have the right to show up to these kinds of things with weapons. I don't think it's smart to show up
Government
at this event
buildings, libraries.
Exactly.
Right?
I don't think it's a smart thing to do, but that's not my fight. I don't live in Minnesota. I'm out of step with mainstream American opinion on the efficacy of guns in that way. I'm not a gun person for exactly this reason, but that's not an argument in this case. The bottom line is the very people who are apologizing for this and insinuating that the guy was a criminal for having shown up with a gun in the first place are the people who have advocated for gun rights and concealed carry rights for fucking decades. For decades. And it is entirely pathetic to suggest at this point that he had it coming because he had a gun on him. It's just absurd, and they're not going to be able to do it. You're already seeing the response to this is markedly more timid than the response to Renee Good. Because, like I said, Renee Good, they were able to latch on to the fact that she jerked a car around, and a car is a dangerous object that was going in the direction of an officer. There's nothing here to even hang the argument on, unless you want to argue against the Second Amendment, which of course these conservatives cannot do. So it's a real sort of logic jam for them.
Yeah, we are well and truly into dystopian science fiction. I always mention, and it looks more prophetic with each passing year. It's free on YouTube if you want to check it out. Oliver Stone executive produced a series called Wild Palms back in the 80s with Jim Belushi and Kim Cattrall are in it. And it presents a future America where you might be walking your dog through your suburban neighborhood and a bunch of guys jump out of an SUV with black tinted windows and grab your neighbor off the street. And everyone just kind of accepts that as normal because it's been normalized.
Right.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make people accept as normal the idea that you have a bunch of guys in masks running around doing whatever they want with absolutely no accountability.
Right.
And when they shoot a Renee Good, or when they shoot this poor man, what they're telling you is don't show up. And what argument are they making? And what are you seeing their sycophants saying? Well, you shouldn't have been there. Shouldn't have been there. This is what they're trying to communicate. Now, if you're somebody who claims to be an American, who believes in American values, and you're saying people shouldn't show up to protest, you should probably shut the fuck up right now. You're not an American. You're a fascist. You're a Nazi. You're not an American. That's not an American value. You don't believe in the Constitution. Quite the contrary. You hate the Constitution. You want to live in a fascist state. If your argument is their argument, no, you shouldn't be at a protest. And if you show up, you get what's coming to you. If they kill you while you asked for it, you're a fascist. You're a fascist. Like the idea that, presumably, if somebody asked you, what does America represent? You would say freedom, right? That's what you would say. Well, does that sound like a free country to you? One where you can't show up to protest? You can't where the idea that they've already kind of normalized law enforcement with masks on? Like you're really, like, it looks like the movie Civil War. Like when I saw that footage, I woke up to that at 4 a.m. to this story. I just looked at the news and it was up there already. And yeah, it looks like Civil War. That's a lot of what they captured in Civil War, of like what an America where society is broken down to that point would look like, where you're just going to get people just getting shot on the side of the road. How much you let them normalize these kinds of horrors is going to determine the future course. Now we're going to see in the Dems on ICE Part 2 segment, the polling is overwhelmingly negative at this point. And it really tells you something about, if you want to take some comfort, how much Americans do not actually like fascism. They don't like the rhetoric. They don't like the aesthetic. They don't like the reality. They don't like it. There is a small portion of people who think they'll get something out of fascism who support it. That's not most people. Most people are against it. If you have a free and fair election in November, not that the Democrats don't have their own problems, but it's inconceivable in a free and fair election that this is not going to be a blue wave like you've never seen before. Like insane. Like wipe Republicans out more or less from coast to coast. And then the Democrats can tell ICE, listen, if you're going to murder somebody, you need a warrant.
Yeah, or you can't wear a mask. Right.
Yeah, you can't wear a mask when you murder people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think obviously that is true. And when you look at Minneapolis, the reaction to this is to try and pin this on the state officials in Minneapolis, as if this is somehow their fault. When you zoom out and you look at George Floyd in Minneapolis, you look at the fact that this all started with Nick Shirley going around and harassing Somali daycares, which, by the way, don't you feel like the idiot I told you were when I did those Nick Shirley segments? You don't care about fraud? You don't think fraud bad? No, this is what that was about. This is what that was about, you fucking imbecile. It was very obvious. It's very obvious that this is constructed to a certain extent, which leaves me of two minds about the protest. And I talked about this with Kyle Angelo when we had him on last Sunday. It's like, yeah, look, I'm a First Amendment absolutist, basically. I agree with people's right to protest. I think people should speak their minds and peacefully protest. On the other hand, I do feel like this is happening in Minneapolis for a reason. This administration thinks Tim Walz is a good foil for them. They beat him in November with Kamala. He's a ridiculous person. This was the site of the George Floyd riots. There's a large Somali population, which they know plays well to the largest swaths of racists in the country. I do think this is, to a large extent, orchestrated to create unrest. And the reason I say that leaves me of two minds about the protest is because as much as I support people's rights to protest, and as much as I am sympathetic to their point of view that they bring to this protest, I do think to a certain extent you're giving them what they want. I think when things like this happen, though, it goes too far. I think they understand that in this situation, and we're going to take a look at this in the next segment, when you look at the reactions, it's not quite the same level of chest pounding. Right. If you want to implement this, there's top speed, and then there's a speed at which it's too fast, and you risk a certain backlash, which sets you back. So 1 step forward, 2 steps back, kind of thing. But we'll get into that more in the next segment. Why don't we take some super chats before that?
Okay. Me Shoot Skeet, super sticker. Thank you.
Thank you, Me Shoot Skeet.
Obsessed Dragonfly. The feels like temp in Wisconsin got down to negative 30 degrees.
Wow.
Over the weekend, rather.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
man,
8 degrees where I am.
cold
Right.
in that part of the country.
Right now, it's a balmy 8 in my neck of the woods.
Wow. Red French Moon. Trump's, I think it's 80 where I am. Red French Moon.
Russ is like, I'm a little hot. Let me crack open a window.
I'm a little. I had the AC going.
Feeling a little stuffy in here.
No. You know what's terrible? Americans abroad were such ignorant savages. When I was a child, when I was a wee lad, so Jimmy Carter was trying to get America aligned with the rest of the world's weight and measures. So when I was a child, they were teaching us the metric system in preparation for America to go over to the metric system.
Right.
So when I was like in 4th grade, I understood Celsius. I was able to do the conversion. I understood meters and that kind of thing. I don't anymore because Reagan came in and said, God damn it, we're American and we're going to make the whole rest of the world have to struggle to make their parts conform to our measurements because, damn it, that's freedom. And that was it. They stopped teaching it. They literally stopped teaching it as soon as Reagan became president. So I don't know what fucking temperature it is over here when I see 9 Celsius. I don't know what that means. Red French Moon. Trump's USA looks a lot like Biff's USA in Back to the Future too, when he gets the almanac. Did Zemeckis have a crystal ball or something?
People have said that before, yeah.
Go watch Wild Palms. I'm telling you, that was one of the most eerily prophetic TV series of all time. It was like a limited series. Kuznetsky Bassane, not my quote, but relevant. The most propagandized population in human history. It's very true. It is very true. Mark P. Thickout. You U.S. Americans, do you know you have to make a regime change, huh? To save not only yourselves, but possibly the world? I know that.
I thought you were an American, Mark P. Thickout. Where are you from? You Canadian? I always assumed Mark P. Thickout was an American. Guess not.
Nope.
Now I'm kind of jealous of Mark P. Thickout.
Top 000. Is Dobular able to stare at a still of Kyle Kalinske from the Piers Morgan debate for 10 seconds without looking away? Yeah, it's pretty bad, man. It's pretty bad what that woman did. She must have a golden pussy, that woman, man. Jesus Christ. The fuck? The way she twisted that cat into a caricature of himself. SAR, you guys and your work. How do normal non-MAGA idiots combat this admin's blatant lies and reality denying? Remember, 7 Democrats just voted for more money. I mean, honestly, I despair of the possibility of fixing the United States without horrific hardship first. Like, the country is going to have to collapse. And, people say that very cavalierly. Remember, that's going to involve a tremendous amount of human suffering before you can actually turn the country around. I don't think there's any other way to fix it. That's my honest opinion. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to incrementally fix it. Kuznetsky Bassane, gaslighting, crackpot, oligarch, failing state. That was a throwaway line from Subterranean Homesick Blues. He didn't use that one.
Yeah.
Brad Gilbert, no ID. Police captain complains about his officers being stopped by ICE. Wait for it. Boys in Blue soon to promote real ID for your safety from ICE. Yep. Digital ID, man. Kuznetsky Bassane, gaslighting failed state. Gaslighting failed state back with oligarchs.
Yeah.
Natas 12M. They responded to their training. Let that sink in. Their training is to execute good Samaritans and citizens. Yep.
Both the people
enemy.
who involved, it seems like both of the perpetrators of these shootings were actually veterans of Border Patrol in some form. It seems like these were not noobs. Yep.
Richard Hughes, not on the side of ICE at all, but do you believe any of these people are paid protesters or agitators? I believe the ICE agents are.
Yeah, I mean, some of them probably are.
Honestly, seems to me that the circles we travel in, we would know of such things, like we would get an offer, or we would know people who got offered money to go do that. Like, it can't be that common, because
No.
I've never come across it personally. I've never had someone tell me, hey, you want to make $50? Like, it's never ever come up once. And I travel in the kind of circles where it would come up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe that. I believe it's like the dead people voting thing. I think it's something they like to promote to give people a false sense that what they're seeing is not what they're seeing.
I mean, yeah, I think it's very, very few. Now there could be money behind organizing the protest, but do I think like people get a day rate to go and hold a sign or film ICE officers? No, I don't believe that. If that happens, I think it happens on a very, very, very small scale. Again, I've never encountered anyone who's encountered anything like that. But that's really besides the point. Like, even if they are paid protesters, it doesn't give you a right to roust them and shoot them. Like, that's a red herring.
Even if they were.
The only thing that matters when an officer uses deadly force against a civilian, the only question is, was that officer's life in danger? Did that civilian pose an immediate and violent threat? If the answer is no, it is not a justified shooting. That is all the matter. Nothing else matters. Whether paid, not paid, why they were there, how long they were there, what they were there. That is irrelevant to the question of, was force justified in that moment.
Well, and beyond that, like Occam's razor, you don't need all that to explain why people are out protesting a deeply unpopular policy.
Right. Exactly.
Why wouldn't they be?
All right, we are at 2596 in the chat. Big crowd today.
25.
952 likes. All right, let's take some Rumble rants over here before we move on. Killer Hinton says, hey, dirtbags, the dystopia clock is at 2 minutes till midnight, and the truth still can't find its boots. My cats are still the best, though. So I got that going for me. Good for you, Killer Hinton. So when you get a drink from a restaurant, do they now ask if you want Gestapo with that? Ha, good one. Good one. Kemen G just wanted to say that TikTok is officially in the hands of Zionists. Please download the Upscrolled app instead, as this is not censored and growing. Oh, is Upscrolled the new thing?
Upscrolled?
Thanks for
I haven't
that.
even heard of it.
I haven't heard of it either. Russ, modern elites morphing into the unhinged patricians of ancient Rome.
Yes, they are.
Active Guardian, so there is no film or filming. There is no tape or videotaping. People are recording or video recording. Be accurate when you talk about your work tools. Wow, what a life you must lead. Hillary Hinton. Minneapolis is a lot like Altamont with ICE in the role of Hell's Angels. No sympathy for the fucking devil.
Yeah, you know what's funny, having like a solo project now. Like you have Wings, I have the Plastic Ono band over there.
Right.
It's a totally different niche, but you get autists no matter where you go on YouTube. Have you noticed that on your channel? Like you'll get the autists in the comments. Like,
no, I haven't.
Like, it's not specific to politics.
Right.
No, I had somebody say, wearing sunglasses and you greet the waitress like that. Disgraceful.
Disgraceful. Yet.
I'm like, I guess it doesn't matter what genre you're in. These people are going to show up.
It looked to me like he resisted being pushed down and having the living fuck beat out of him. Well, yeah, I mean, it looked like he was trying to shield the woman, and yeah, he probably I mean, there was no evidence to me whatsoever that he even tried to hit the officers, much less reach for the gun. Albukid says the final official narrative will reflect whatever fictions IO-owned media and textbook publishers decide. They're rewriting history in real time. We're all Palestine. That's right. Thank you, Albukid. Appreciate that very much. Okay, we will move right on along here. Okay, folks, so we're going to talk a little bit about the response to the killing of Alex Preddy at the hands of a group of ICE officers on the streets in Minneapolis. Jake Tapper put together this little video here of Kristi Noem's version of events intercut with the actual video. So just in case you didn't watch the other segment, here's a little recap of what DHS says happened versus what actually happened.
A video that CNN just obtained of the shooting, and I'm going to overlay on the video of the shooting of Alex Preddy the description of the shooting that we all heard from the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. And I want you to see if her description matches what you see in the video. The first image you're going to see is Alex Preddy, this 37-year-old ICU nurse from the Minneapolis VA who was shot and killed today by federal agents. The first image you're going to see is him standing in the middle street of Minneapolis, holding his cell phone, filming these federal agents.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
There's still a lot we don't know about this shooting. Apparently, Preddy had a gun on him. He also had a concealed carry permit, according to law enforcement. It looks as though, in the video, that his gun was taken from him by law enforcement before he was shot. It also looks as though he never actually held his gun or reached for his gun, at least based on the 3 or 4 videos we've seen of the event. Still a lot of unanswered questions, but just tell me what you think. Did what you saw on that video square with how Secretary Noem described it?
Of course not. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, there's just a little media observation. It's interesting how the corporate and mainstream media are trying to figure out how to ape the aesthetic of independent media.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
With the
Jake Tapper and his little sweater there.
Yeah, his pullover
in his living room.
Yeah. But yeah, we did a whole segment on that. It'll be clipped separately, so go and watch that for a thorough breakdown of the video. But I think that pretty much sets it up that, of course, the DHS version of events is just untrue. I called it 1984 meets Hairspray on Twitter. Propaganda and Company observes ICE is killing Americans on the streets, and the propaganda justifying it is sounding very Israeli. Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, he was Hamas.
He was Hamas
with the camera there, right? So Aaron Rupar tweets out. This is the EMT describing her background and comparing her experience in war zones to her experience now in Minneapolis. Let's take a look.
Is an international humanitarian response. My background is an international humanitarian response in conflict zones in Yemen, Haiti, Syria, Iraq, and Ukraine. What I've seen here is what I've seen there. A powerful entity violently and intentionally terrorizing people, making them afraid to go outside so they can't earn a living, so that kids are forced out of school. This has a lasting generational impact. People can't plan a single day of their lives because they don't know who is around the corner and if their family member or neighbor is about to be taken away.
Pretty damning stuff. Well, here's Donald Trump's reaction. This is the gunman's gun, loaded with 2 additional full magazines and ready to go. What is that all about? Where are the local police? Why weren't they allowed to protect ICE officers? The mayor and the governor called them off. It is stated that many of these police were not allowed to do their job, that ICE had to protect themselves. Not an easy thing to do. Why does Ilhan Omar have $34 million in her account? See how quickly he's like pivoting off the case? Not the same tone as he's a terrorist. How dare he? It's not no. He's going on to make this. He almost gets off topic here. And where are the tens of billions of dollars that have been stolen from the once great state of Minnesota? We are there because of massive monetary fraud with billions of dollars missing. See, I told you that the illiterate closet case, Nick Shirley, that was an op. Okay, meant to set up something like this. And illegal criminals that were allowed to infiltrate the state through the Democrats' open border policy. We want the money back, and we want it back now. Those fraudsters who stole the money are going to jail where they belong. This is no different than a really big bank robbery. Much of what you're witnessing is a cover-up for this theft and fraud. The mayor and the governor are inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous, and arrogant rhetoric. Instead, these sanctimonious political fools should be looking for the billions of dollars that has been stolen from the people of Minnesota and the United States of America. Let our ICE patriots do their job. 12,000 illegal alien criminals, many of them violent, have been arrested and taken out of Minnesota. If they were still there, you would see something far worse than you are witnessing today. What a ridiculous statement that is. They were still there a year ago, according to you. Did we see this in Minnesota a year ago with the 12,000 illegal immigrants there? Was it this? Did Minneapolis look the way it looks now? No, I think the average sane person says it looks much worse now with what you're doing to ostensibly remove the illegal aliens. But notice how he pivots right off of the actual shooting, right? And starts, one of his just unhinged sort of stream of consciousness monologues in tweet form. J.D. Vance really doesn't engage the point of the shooting either. J.D. Vance quote tweets this and says, when I visited Minnesota, what the ICE agents wanted more than anything was to work with local law enforcement so that situations on the ground didn't get out of hand. The local leadership in Minnesota has so far refused to answer those requests. So that's it. So their line here is to try and pin this on Tim Walz and the state of Minnesota. Here's Pam Bondi saying that they sent him a very strong letter insisting that Walz work with them on the immigration crackdown.
Rape, homicide, manslaughter. That's who they're trying to protect in Minnesota. I do not understand these people. We sent Governor Walz a very strong letter today. We had been working on this letter. We got it out saying that he better support President Trump. He better support the men and women in law enforcement, because if he doesn't, we are. And that's what we're doing right now.
Were there any consequences in this letter?
Well, we'll see. This is fluid. Let's see how Governor Walz responds. Let's see what he does based on this, based on what's happening right now. But this administration is going to support the citizens. We're going to support our great men and women in law enforcement.
All right. Now, here is Tim Walz saying that they are bringing in the National Guard, whatever that means, because he said he was going to do that last week as well.
Right. Yeah.
Have you activated the National Guard? I know that the Sherwood Committee has requested for additional assistance. Can you tell us whether they're going to be playing a role in keeping?
Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes, we have, as we said last week, and we staged those troops. I'll have General Menke talk about where they're at. And
yeah, where are they? Like, what is the and while we're on this topic of troops, not that I support invoking the Insurrection Act, but at this point, as JB Pritzker said on TV yesterday, I don't have this clip. I watched it live. What at this point would be the difference between this and invoking the Insurrection Act? I mean, if ICE is acting as a domestic military, then really what's the difference between this and having the actual military there? I mean, if anything, the actual military is probably better trained not to do shit like this. I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm just saying, like, I don't see what, like, if this isn't the Insurrection Act, what would the Insurrection Act look like? Like, you already have a militarized national police force terrorizing people. Can't imagine the Insurrection Act would look much scarier. Maybe I'm wrong. Could always get worse, as they say.
Again, use this as an opportunity to stress to Minnesotans the frustration you have, and as you saw this, they killed a man, created chaos, pushed down protesters, threw gas indiscriminately, and then left the scene, and then we're left to clean up. I understand the anger. I understand trying to parse who were the law enforcement on the scene when you got there after a man was killed is difficult for folks who are out there. But I can't stress enough, our goal, and I'll have General Minke talk about what the role of these Guard troops are in conjunction with incredible work from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, from mutual aid across, and of course the State Patrol, of trying to get to the point where what we're saying is we can handle this and Minnesotans can express their First Amendment rights and have our folks on the streets and get these people out of here. And so, Sean, if you want to talk a little bit, but the answer is yes, there's activated. He can talk to you about numbers.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this letter that Pam Bondi sent to Tim Walt. Chris Murphy says Pam Bondi just sent a letter to Minnesota officials saying ICE will leave if the state turns over its voter database to Trump. Guess what? This has never been about safety or immigration. It's a pretext for Trump to take over elections in swing states.
And now you've seen this horrific video, another individual killed in Minnesota. It's just fucking awful, the inhumanity of this. We cannot fund ICE as it is constituted today.
It's good that they're cursing.
Right.
That shows a lot of fight.
You know, we don't like to toot our own horn here, but I feel like we really made the F-bomb great again.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's following our lead. Like we were way out ahead on that.
Yeah. Well, you know, they're showing fight. They're cursing. That's good.
Yeah.
You know. Yep.
Yeah.
The cavalry's
Found out
here.
something else really important today. Pam Bondi sent a letter to state officials in Minnesota in which she made a list of demands for ICE to leave Minneapolis. And one of those demands was that the state turn over its voter rolls to the federal government. This has never been about public safety. Minneapolis is a much less safe place today because ICE is there. This is likely about trying to rig and steal the election. Donald Trump is wildly unpopular. He is not committed to democracy. And he knows the only way that his movement is to retain power, the only way that his corporate allies retain power, his billionaire allies retain power this November, is for Trump to steal the election. And so he's saying to Minneapolis, if you don't give me control of the voter rolls, then ICE isn't leaving. And you can see that if he gets away with it in Minnesota, he's likely going to try it in places like Philadelphia and Phoenix, other key cities in swing states. So understand why it's so important for us to draw a line. I have been arguing all weekend that the Senate should not pass funding for the Department of Homeland Security. First and foremost, because this is a rogue agency that is operating outside of the law and is killing American citizens. But also because the underlying game here may be to steal the 2026 election. And no senator, but in particular no Democratic senator, should play a part in that.
We're going to get into more of that in a different segment. But yeah, the fact that they are setting conditions for ICE to leave, the fact that you're obviously seeing, Trump advance, being a little less comfortable cranking it up to 11 and trying to demonize this victim, more interested in sort of pivoting away, making this, this is a distraction from the fraud. And, this is because the state bureaucrats won't cooperate with the feds. Right here, you see Tim Pool saying empty hand, then gun in hand. There was no gun in hand. There was a gun in the ICE officer's hand. Appears the man may have been disarmed before being shot. This is a chain of events in a greater conflict. Neither side cares at this point what justifies it or doesn't. I don't see Trump winning this one. Here is a veteran interviewed by CBS on the streets of Minneapolis explaining why he's out there.
It's not that we have an issue with immigration, and it's not that we disagree that illegal immigrants should be deported with due process, but that is a surgical operation that needs to be done with a scalpel. But yet again, our boss has sent in with a bedazzled chainsaw to do the job. ICE is a federal agency. I fully recognize that. However, they lost trust. They lost Minnesota's trust the moment they stepped in our state. When they started killing people, they started trampling on everybody's rights. Everybody deserves dignity and respect. And we have fallen far from what made America great. You know what made America great? Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, your wretched refuse yearning to breathe free. That's when America was great again. And we need to go back to that.
They're trying, though. Here's Fox News. Here's Byron Donald's message for ICE agents after all this.
Well, in the last 30 seconds or so that we have, Congressman, I wonder what your message would be to those ICE agents and all the people out there from the law enforcement agencies who've been working so hard.
First of all, I want to thank you for your service to the country. Number two, I'm sorry that you're having to deal with all these protests which are being thrown at you by the radical left Democrats. We stand behind you. We want you to continue to do your job on behalf of the United States of America and all of the American people. And a quick message.
Yeah, and you have, whores like Jack Posobiec. It is not self-defense to run up on police and interfere with their operations and then draw a gun. Of course, none of that happened.
Yeah,
like, literally none of that at all happened. So you have some of this. I'm not going to say you have none of this. But clearly, this is a tipping point of sorts. Dam breaking. House Homeland Security Republicans just summoned ICE and Customs and Border Patrol leadership to testify. They sent formal letters demanding the heads of ICE and CBP show up in Congress ASAP. What this means in real life, they're getting hammered over what's happening in Minneapolis. The public footage is bad. The narrative is collapsing. And now Congress wants answers under oath. This is the beginning of oversight pressure. I wouldn't get too confident too soon.
Yes.
But Graham Cassidy, a senator, breaks with Trump over deadly shooting by Border Patrol agent in Minneapolis. Republican senator, the events in Minneapolis are incredibly disturbing. The credibility of ICE and DHS are at stake. There must be a full joint federal and state investigation. We can trust the American people with the truth. Yeah. This is the thing. We'll get more into this in the next piece about the funding showdown that seems set to sort of square off over the next week and possibly into February. But you can sense a lack of confidence that the people are buying this in enough numbers. I mean, this is even more blatant than the Renee Good shooting, which was pretty blatant. Right. So blatant. Dave Smith has even had enough. He says, I'm an immigration restrictionist. I believe we have the right to remove any and all people who entered our country illegally. Also, ICE is out of fucking control. A bunch of pussies drunk on power.
I also think Churchill was the principal villain of World War II. A friend convinced me.
Yo, by the way, Martyr Maid liked one of my tweets, actually.
You're kidding me.
No, he did. ICE is out
of... He probably doesn't know who you are.
No. ICE is out of fucking control. A bunch of pussies drunk on power going around intentionally escalating violent interactions and intimidating U.S. citizens. They create these tragic situations, and after this gigantic show of force, they won't deport a fraction of the illegals who entered under Biden. This is simply not worth it. That says it all right there. Even to a guy like Dave Smith, the average person, even the average right of center person who bought into all this, what I frankly feel was paranoia and hysteria about the need for mass deportations. I think there was a need to secure the border so you didn't have this flux of people coming in. Obviously, the Biden administration mismanaged that intentionally or unintentionally. Seems like it was kind of intentional given how easy it was to shut it down. But the average person...
That is what I said all throughout the Biden administration. You cannot tell me with the resources we have, that you can't shut that border.
Right.
Absolutely no way. So at that point, there's a reason, which my theory was always to destabilize labor.
So, yeah, I mean, so, be that as it may, the average person is sympathetic with that, but the average person doesn't see this as being worth it.
Right.
They don't see the juice as being worth the squeeze, because
Well, there's
obviously
the-
it isn't. What Trump said at the beginning of this segment here, he said, well, if we kept the illegals in Minnesota, the 12,000 illegals, what you would have been seeing now is worse than what's going on now. That's obviously not true. That's demonstrably not true. According to your own statement, those 12,000 illegals were in Minneapolis at this time last year. And guess what we didn't have? This, right? So the average person looks at this and they say, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. This is unsustainable. It can't go on much longer. That's why I think you're seeing a more tepid response. That's why I think you're seeing letters, okay, we'll withdraw if you do this, this, and this. Because if you're playing to win, if you're playing the long game, and this is certainly the long game, and the long game is not about immigrants. The long game is about Palantir and ICE and surveillance. You have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And I think at this rate, this is an unsustainable rate of growth. It's not to say they're going to fold up shop. This police state has been under construction since 9/11 in the way it's currently constituted. You can argue this country has always been a prison state, right? But as it's currently constituted, this has been a decades-long project. When you hit the gas too hard, this is the kind of pushback you get. I just don't see this as being sustainable for a year. I mean, we can't have 3 years of this. I don't think they're going to be able to keep this going that long like this.
Yeah, for anyone who thinks this is about immigration, I want you to answer this question. Why didn't they go after the employers if it was about immigration? Have you seen them go after a single employer? You didn't need any of this. You could have not hired a single ICE agent. You do 10 high-profile arrests of people who employ illegal immigrants, it'd be the end of it. There'd be no employment. There would be no employment. The rest would fall in line. Why do you think they didn't do it that way? Okay, yeah, I mean, the same people who hired the immigrants are their donors. That's part of it. But that's not the main reason. They wanted to build a domestic police force, and they used immigration as the pretense. We said from the beginning, this is about you. This is not about immigrants. And look where we are. 2 Americans shot within a month for no good reason at all. Less than a month. This is about you. This is about using immigration. They saw that was a popular issue. They wanted to build a national Gestapo, and they used that premise to get people to support it and accept it. It was always obvious they're not building all of this infrastructure. They're not creating whole new agencies and departments and bureaucracies. They're not hiring tens of thousands of people for immigrants. They wouldn't do that to get rid of the immigrants. And even assuming that that was the case, if there's anything the military-industrial complex has taught us, it's once you create an entire industry for a purpose, that industry is not just going to go away when that purpose goes away. Then they're just going to find pretexts to justify their existence, right? They'll start wars. They'll influence politics, that there will be wars to justify defense spending. They'll manipulate the media to keep the country in a constant state of paranoia and a constant, who's coming to invade the United States? Who's coming to invade the United States? Now think about, as an American, how your whole life you've been told how much danger you're in from countries on the other side of the world that are absolutely, if you think about it logically for 5 seconds, absolutely no threat to you. Why is that? To justify the defense spending. They have to convince Americans that they're in a constant state of siege, that they're constantly in danger. It's the same thing with this. Like, if you did resolve the immigrant issue, and they'll just constantly tell you that it's an issue, whether it's an issue or not. But in theory, if they resolved it, what do you think they're going to do? Pack up all the ICE agents and go home? You got, and it's not just Republicans. They're going to get into that in my segment. It's Democrats too, shoving the money into the pockets of contractors. People are getting rich off this ICE thing, just like the MIC. They're not going to go away. So what do you do with this national police force that you've created in this national detention system? Well, you turn it into a national gulag for dissent. That is what the end game is.
Well, the immigration issue is itself a repackaging of the original justification for ICE, which was the war on terror. ICE was conceived in 2003. It's not some long-standing American institution. This is a creation of the post 9/11 paranoia. And so at first you needed ICE so that Al-Qaeda didn't sneak across the border and develop, cells here. And now that people are not afraid of that anymore, well, you need a new thing to be afraid of. So the immigrant issue is itself just a repackaging of that same sort of fear that sells and sells very well. And in a country founded on, race-based exploitation, which then evolved into race-based grievance and tension between groups in the, aftermath of sort of formal persecution, that lingering paranoia is a very powerful weapon, and it works every time. And what did they use in Minnesota? Somalis, Africans. Works every time. It's an old trick. And you still got these fucking people. Hey, you don't care about fraud?
Yeah. Well, and you also get, and this is really just, you have to be incredibly, it all goes together. Americans are so ignorant. They don't know how ignorant they are. And that is what leads them to proudly declare cultural superiority. The idea of a bunch of fat, stinky ass, fucking ignorant Americans declaring their cultural superiority over anybody is an absolute joke. But it goes together. They're too ignorant to realize that. What are you proud of? McDonald's? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
What culture are you talking about?
Proud.
Reality TV? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Real Housewives? What culture are you talking about exactly? And when you ask them that, they'll show you a Gothic cathedral. That's Europe, motherfucker. What culture are you talking about?
Yeah.
Explain it to me.
Baseball and cheap beer. Alba Kid says, Puppy Exterminator Noam insists ICE mercenaries roid rage orgy trumps your stinking constitution. That's right. Ken Minji says, Janine Yunus said she asked Matt Taibbi about things she disagreed with him in his reporting, and he yelled at her to go F yourself. Yeah, I saw the clip on that. I didn't watch that episode yet, but I saw the clip on Twitter. Hamhawk, good morning. Was licensed to carry in most of the U.S. at one point, but the more I learned in the process, I decided not to and let it expire. General strike. Yep. I think that's a good call. Noah Goop, libs were cool with people being stuffed into vans as long as they were Ukrainians. Mark Pugliese, if Walz was hip, he'd call the UN and request a peacekeeping force on the grounds that the federal government has overstepped its authority. Yeah, I'm sure Marco Rubio would really have a lot of respect. A lot of respect for that. I'm tired of the give me your tired rhetoric. We've always treated immigrants like shit. This is just the current set of buttons they are pressing on our road to fascism. Yep, indeed. All right. You want to take some super chats?
Sure. Nong. Many of us, if not most of these servile bootlicking accounts defending ICE are recently minted robots, I believe. You're right.
Yeah.
And then you got like a few vulnerable people with broken peasant minds get sucked into agreeing with robots,
right?
Thinking those are their friends. Domark, so-called hippies, knew these types of men were in Vietnam doing unspeakable acts to women and children, repeated it in Iraq, Gaza, etc. That's why I never say thanks for your service. Serving whom? that was one of the big things after the Vietnam War, because they would come home and they would get spit on. In some respect, you have to see them as victims as well. I mean, who do they draw from? The underclass. I came from that kind of neighborhood where a lot of people joined the military because it was the only option they saw, or it was the best option they saw to pay for their education, to get out of the neighborhood, right? I mean, that's who winds up in the military. They victimize the poor. They take advantage of the poor. And they sell people, and this is where you're right. Like, they create a mystique around military service. What's the purpose of that? To create more corpses, to create more invalids, to get people to join. If you didn't create that mystique, who would join, right? Who wants to risk getting their head blown off? You got to make it heroic, right? Very brave. Joel Sibeyeki Y1010. You're better at that. What does that say? What does that say? Read that name.
Joel Sci by Sky. Maybe.
Sci by Sky. See.
I don't know. It's just the way it came. I didn't set it that way.
What are you talking about?
My clock set to 10:10.
Oh.
It's a running joke in the chat.
Right,
It came that way.
Well, it's like the Paulie Walnut Sopranos thing. Something's going to happen.
Right. It's like a hidden meaning. Right.
It's a hidden meaning. Peter Monahan, Gator Pete, going to Minneapolis to protest with friends today. This city has become a war zone. Bad, very bad. Wish me peace and safety. Say their names, Renee and Alex. You stay safe
out
Gator
there, man.
Pete.
Be safe out there for sure. And safe travel. It's got to be brutal travel in there today, too.
Yeah, exactly. Today of all days. Sphincter Knucklebuster. Batman has used firearms numerous times. Early years, like the 40s? I mean,
I don't remember Batman using those firearms.
I mean, maybe in the original Detective Comic stuff, but Batman, as he was developed, he didn't use firearms. He only used those batarangs and kind of ninja stuff. P.L. Sandridge. Tin soldiers and Nixon coming. We're finally on our own. Yeah, man. It's very Kent State out there.
Yeah,
P.L. Sandridge. It's 1968 all over again. Yeah. Worse.
That's right.
Worse. They didn't have social media. Mark P. Thickout. Had these numbnuts accepted the argument, quote, you shouldn't have been there about January 6th. Of course not. That's an excellent point.
Well, no,
to a person, they support that.
These people are a fucking joke. Look, one thing that's over for good, like forever, is that, there is a large faction of, I won't even say just left-wing people, but a large faction of, more sort of independent-minded political thinkers who, I won't say we allied with right-wingers because we never really did organize with them in any meaningful way for any policy pushes, but we did give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt who said they were anti-war, said they were civil libertarians, said they were for free speech. We will never do that ever again. None of these people will ever get an ounce of credibility, and that's something you could do. You want to, in your online life or in an online space here, never let any of these people convince you that they give a damn about civil liberties, free speech, anti-war politics, anything,
or that
like
they're not racist
ever again, or that they're not racist. If I'm convinced at this point, I really am. I mean, I mean this very seriously. I'm not even making a joke. That if the vaccine had rolled out when Trump was president, these MAGA influencers would be screaming at people to get it and be advocating to throw people in camps who didn't get it. That's how unprincipled they have revealed themselves to be. I'm actually convinced of that. So never give these people an ounce of credibility ever again, ever.
Well, like all fascists, they just want to be part of a movement that they think makes them powerful.
Right, exactly.
That's their only priority.
They're just weak men who live vicariously through who they perceive to be strong men. That's it. That's their entire politics. Yep.
Brad Gilbert, polls are fake. Zio's got to make him look credible. make who look credible?
Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
N. Trushev. Megapedo and Zionist ideology are both centered around censorship, war, genocide, and PDF file. Yeah. Kenman G, Joe Rogan. That surely brilliant break kid. Did he say that? Did he say that? Or are you joking?
Did he say that? I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Jocelyn Bisk, Keaton 1010.
Yeah.
Which thing? Which thing? Kate, nobody in leadership in Minneapolis is from there, so they don't care. Keith Ellison, Detroit. Waltz and Frey, East Coast. Police chief, New Jersey, married a Somali cop working in New Jersey. I had a metric lunchbox. Did you? Do you still know metrics?
Wow.
And our friend Landrew, dark matter zombies, first or second degree. Will the trials begin for all involved January 27th? We are all Palestinian now.
That's
Hells
right.
yeah, man. Look, I've been saying for a while now, and I think this is becoming more and more clear. Sooner or later, you're going to have a confrontation between local law enforcement and ICE.
Right.
It's going to happen somewhere. There's going to be a situation where local police or local law enforcement are going to get in their way of something they want to do.
Right.
And it is that can go a lot of different ways. But I think that's inevitable. As soon as you saw them starting to go into these blue cities, I think that became inevitable. Listen, frankly, and I'm not taking anything away from the police in Minneapolis. I don't know Minneapolis. I don't know what the situation is like, but I do know New York. And they were having problems very quickly in New York. You notice how they stopped doing that shit in New York? Very fast. You started having people coordinating to all show up. If they pull the shit in New York that they're pulling in Minneapolis, yeah. I think New York is an excellent example of a place where you're very quickly going to have a conflict between local law enforcement and ICE if they were to take things to this level in New York City. Given that they're targeting these places that are very hostile to the administration and to this so-called mission, it seems pretty inevitable that's going to happen. And the outcome of that, who knows? Who knows? Do we wind up having a kind of like de facto civil war? Some people say we're in a civil war now. It's just very low grade. I think of I should try to find that article. I don't know who to attribute it to. You remember this article where the guy talked about how social collapse doesn't happen all at once.
Yeah, that was an
Like,
old
it's not like
Medium
that.
article from years and
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, that you don't just wake up one day and it's collapse. It's just, this is weird.
Right.
And then that's weird. And then this doesn't work. And then that doesn't work. It kind of feels like that's what's happening.
All right. You got the sound drop for Landrew?
Let me do a few more because we got quite a few here. Mark P. Thickout. I didn't mean to sound rude. I'm Swedish,
no
to be
problem.
honest.
All right,
We
you're
have
thinking
our own
honest.
problems. Shouldn't sound rude.
You didn't sound rude. I envy your
an O-
problems.
You're an OG.
Sweden.
You've been around a
Yeah.
while, man. Maynard Dick. If ICE harasses you, just say you're an Israeli citizen.
Yeah, just say I'm Israeli.
Absolutely.
Just
that'll
say you're
do it.
Jewish and then that they're
Yeah,
anti-Semitic.
that'll
That'll
do it.
work. Yeah.
Brad Gilbert. Russ.
Anti-Semite.
C times 2 minus 10% plus 32 equals F, or F minus 32 plus 10% divided by 2.
I thought it was
equals
1.8 plus
C.
30. The Fahrenheit to Celsius conversion. All right, I'll try that.
Yeah, I hate to tell you this. That's not going to stick. IHQ Princess Aju. Jew in its own juices. It's a princess in her own juices. It's a very spicy handle. ICE is carrying out extrajudicial executions of American citizen, and maggots are saying we voted for this unironically. How insane. Yeah, man. I mean, look, You know, they say never again, and that's really associated with, like, you know, the Holocaust and Holocaust remembrance. But, you know, we should interpret that more broadly. You want to talk about never again is now? America is in the midst of a fascist coup. It's that simple. America is in the midst of a fascist coup. What are Americans going to do about it? That is the question of our times. Wasim Garani, if that was IDF taking out Alex, Jake would say they have the right to defend themselves. Yeah, well, that's what was funny watching Dana Bash interrogate that guy, because the IDF does this shit all the time and she defends it. If that were the IDF on the Palestinian, she'd be like him. She'd be taking his side of it.
Right.
Gray Ghost Infinite super sticker. Thank you. All right, I'll do one more because we got a lot backed up. Skyman. Trump's message sounds like someone who just needs a little bit more chaos to declare martial law. Fucking A.
I mean, I don't know what he's waiting for, honestly. I'm surprised it hasn't happened, and I'm surprised they haven't invoked the Insurrection Act, and I don't see how that would look all that different from than it looks now. What, you'd have fancier equipment? You'd have tanks rolling through the streets? I mean, look at this. Is this not a military occupation now? You know, like I don't know how much different it would look, to be honest.
I think they're worried about the optics of formally declaring it.
Right. All right, you got Landry's sound drop?
I will get it.
Right. Wild Palms. Yeah, it's a miniseries based on Bruce Wagner's comic strip. Production, Oscar winners Oliver Stone, Catherine Bigelow. Yes, directed an episode. Yep, she directed an episode of that. Good one, Cool Blue.
You know what? I didn't know of Wild Palms.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, you know what? I didn't know that.
We are the gore the galaxy is watching. That's from Andor, if you never watched it. Very relevant today. Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate that very much. All right. Why don't we go into our next segment here?
Oh, I'm looking for Landry's sound drop. Where, ever since they rearranged this soundboard, I can't find anything.
Yeah. Well, that's all. I mean, we could do it after the next one, I guess. Well, Andrew, we owe you one.
Well, at least we can give you your bell.
Yeah, we give you the bell. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. Go ahead.
So you might remember that a lot of polling came out over the last couple of weeks showing a complete collapse in support for ICE. This was CNN. ICE enforcement actions in major cities, making it less safe, 51%, making it more safe, 31%. So that's a pretty enormous gap. Should ICE be abolished? 46% said yes to 43% no. I believe that was the first time a majority were for ICE being abolished. So, of course, Hakeem Jeffries felt that the best thing to do with that kind of political momentum is to not really put pressure on his caucus to not fund ICE. Jeffries won't whip vote against ICE funding, while the House Democratic leader announced personal opposition to a funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security. He won't pressure his colleagues to do the same. Guys, they have all the power. We can't do anything, guys. Stop being mean to us. And so, in the face of absolute lack of political will or courage, Congress passed a $1.2 trillion funding deal that included funding for ICE. Now, this is your wall of shame, but I wouldn't honestly make too much of that. That's exactly what they want you to do, to think it's about them. We know the rotating villain game by now. If one of these seven decided, you know what, I had a little bout of conscience in the middle of the night. It might have been indigestion, but you know what? I'm afraid of hell. I'm going to vote against this funding. They would call somebody else to be in the rotating villain cast to make sure they got the numbers for the bill to pass. But anyway, these are the 7. Henry Cuellar, who Trump personally pardoned for corruption, probably the most notable figure on there. You got to figure he's not going to do anything that's going to piss off the big guy after that. So here is Richard Blumenthal explaining the Democrats' brilliant strategery around ICE, how they're going to hold ICE accountable by giving them more money.
For ICE, DHS, talk us through, Democrats do not control either chamber, but the numbers are so tight, there's opportunity, right?
I think there is an opportunity. Certainly there's an obligation to try to insist on conditions attached to these appropriations or spending bills. The House yesterday approved the ICE budget, the Department of Homeland Security spending bill, by a pretty narrow majority. What they'll try to do in the Senate, without getting too much into the weeds, is to put the Department of Homeland Security spending bill as a package with others to make it more difficult for us to vote against. But I'm a no vote on that spending bill unless there are conditions that require ICE to go to a judge to get a warrant, as well as other kinds of constraints, the use of masks, the non-identification, the unmarked cars.
How about not throwing people on the ground and shooting them? How about that as a condition?
Totalitarian tactics need to be stopped.
We need a well-trained Gestapo. We can't have this Gestapo causing chaos in our beer halls anymore.
Yeah.
They can't be acting like bully boys. So the Onion put it very well. Democrats condemn ICE for murdering without proper warrants. Yeah, it's all about process with these guys. It's all about process. They haven't changed. Now, Patty Murray, I don't know where she stands after the second killing, but this is what she was saying last week, which very well sums up the Democrats' usual plea for people to have sympathy for their own impotence. What we have seen from Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security is frankly sick and un-American. So let's fund it. ICE is out of control, terrorizing people, okay, including American citizens, and actively making our communities less safe. ICE must be reined in, and unfortunately, neither a CR, that's a continuing resolution, nor a shutdown would do anything to restrain it because, thanks to Republicans, ICE is now sitting on a massive slush fund it can tap whether or not we pass a funding bill. You get it? You get where she's going with this? Well, since they already have all that money, we might as well give them more. What's the point of picking a fight since they already have all that money anyway? Why do that? The suggestion that a shutdown in this moment might curb the lawlessness of this administration is not rooted in reality. Under a CR and in a shutdown, this administration can do everything they are already doing, but without any of the critical guardrails and constraints imposed by a full-year funding bill. In this bill, Democrats defeated Republicans' hard-fought push to give ICE an even bigger annual budget. Get it? It could always be worse. It could always be worse. They have only shot 2 of you, right? It could be worse. We're trying to keep the random killings down to a minimum here. There's Democrats working for you. Successfully cut ICE's detention budget and capacity. Cut CBP's. Well, hang on. You're saying nothing is going to really restrain them, so you don't think cutting down their detention budget just means even worse conditions for the detainees? Like, do you think they're going to just have less detainees because it would be inhumane to stick more of them in less cages? What do you think they're going to do with that? Cut CBP's budget by over $1 billion and secured important, although still insufficient, new constraints on DHS. The bill rejects all Republican poison pill riders and significantly reduces Secretary Noem's ability to move around funding as she sees fit under a continuing resolution. Okay, so we really can't do anything other than kind of nibble around the edges in ways that ultimately are probably just going to make things worse for the people that ICE detains. That's the best we can do. But here's an interesting element of this story that Jacobin picked up on by way of the lever. Dem-backed ICE body cams are a giveaway to weapons makers. So even this, and this is, they're very on message about the body cams here. Even this is a donor-driven scam. Federal disclosures reviewed by the lever show that Axon Enterprise, Inc., a weapons company and the country's largest manufacturer of body-worn cameras, has lobbied aggressively since July on the $64 billion Department of Homeland Security spending bill that lawmakers passed on Thursday. The company's CEO, a regular campaign contributor to Republicans, also donated directly to key Democratic lawmakers who pushed for the body camera measures. Funny how that works. Now, the company is well positioned to reap the benefits of the $20 million allocated by the legislation for body cameras as part of ICE's extended $10 billion budget, on top of the $75 billion in additional funding the agency received from the One Big Beautiful Bill last year. Axon has faced lawsuits for monopolizing the police body camera market and raising prices on local government contracts. Its profits have soared despite recent studies casting doubt on body cameras' ability to curb law enforcement misconduct. Although the vast majority of the Democratic caucus voted against the new ICE funding, Jeffries reportedly did not attempt to whip votes against the bill, a legislative maneuver in which members of a party are instructed to vote with the party leadership's official position. Democrats rallied around a proposal to mandate body cameras for every ICE agent. Democrats on the Appropriations Committee touted the provision as an accountability measure. Senator Ruben Gallego, the top recipient of campaign cash from Axon executives, including the company's CEO, reintroduced legislation to do so last week. Gallego co-sponsored the bill alongside fellow Arizona Democrat Senator Mark Kelly. Axon is headquartered in Scottsdale, Arizona. Oh, and both the senators from Arizona want these body cams. In response, Republicans offered a concession to Democrats in the spending bill, $20 million allocated for ICE to purchase and implement body cameras for its officers, which are already currently deployed piecemeal across the agency. Okay, so you see, this was not a concession of all because the Republicans are bought off by the same company. The company donates to both Republicans and Democrats. That's why they said okay to that, because they're paid to say okay to that. This is all, there's just another example of stuffing money into the pockets of these contractors. This is from the Democrat justification angle. Well, we need to hold these cops accountable. In the end, it's the same corruption. That's why the Republicans conceded this point. But hey, you know, it's all fun and games when it's just one woman who's been shot. But now somebody else was shot under circumstances that, as Keaton's segment illustrated very well, they really can't argue in any way was a justified killing. I don't know how many more there's Chuck Park. I don't know how many more. He's running for Congress in my native borough of Queens, by the way. I don't know how many more camera angles I can handle. Alex Pretty was a nurse trying to help another observer who got pepper sprayed, and for that he was murdered. Vote no on the DHS funding bill. And he tags Schumer and Gillibrand, no more money for murderers. Yeah, this does seem to be a tipping point, this killing. This is a bit much. Senate Democrats vow to block DHS funding, risking another shutdown. So here's Chuck Schumer. What's happening in Minnesota is appalling. and unacceptable in any American city. Democrats sought common sense reforms in the Department of Homeland Security spending bill, but because of Republicans' refusal to stand up to President Trump, the DHS bill is woefully inadequate to rein in the abuses of ICE. I will vote no. Senate Democrats will not provide the votes to proceed to the appropriations bill if the DHS funding bill is included. Now, okay, he did not actually. Now, of course, this is Democrats. This can change in a few days. But he didn't, qualify that they're going to vote for the DHS funding. He's straight out saying they're not going to vote for it if DHS funding is included. And again, these are Democrats. I will believe it when I see it. But this is what he's claiming. This is an unusually unlawyerly tweet to come from Schumer on a subject like this. Republicans control the Senate 53-47, but 60 votes are needed to advance most legislation. Schumer's statement came after many Senate Democrats, including some who broke with the majority of their party in November and voted to reopen the government, issued angry statements Saturday saying they wouldn't support a bill funding DHS, the agency that includes the U.S. Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Enough is enough, said Senator Jackie Rosen, Democrat, Nevada, who last year was one of 8 Democrats to join Senate Republicans in voting to end the shutdown. Quote, I have the responsibility to hold the Trump administration accountable when I see abuses of power. That apparently didn't apply when she was one of 8 Democrats to vote to end the shutdown, but okay. Better late than never. The statement from Schumer raised the prospect of a partial government shutdown when funding for the federal government expires at 12:01 a.m. on January 31st, since the Homeland Security funding is wrapped into a broader package covering about $1.3 trillion in annual spending. Senate Democrats are expected to hold a caucus-wide call on Sunday. That is today. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who consistently voted to keep the government open last year, said she couldn't support funding for DHS, saying agents were oppressing Americans. Other Democrats who issued statements vowing to vote against the funding include Senators Andy Kim of New Jersey, Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego of Arizona, Mark Warner of Virginia, and Chris Van Hollen of Maryland. Senator Tim Kaine had already voted a day earlier that he disliked funding DHS as part of a larger package, citing in part what he said were a lack of safeguards against ICE operations that inflame tensions within our cities. Brian Schatz, an important gauge of Senate Democratic sentiment, as he is seen as the next Senate Democratic whip, joined colleagues in saying he would vote against funding DHS. Quote, these repeated incidents of violence across the country are unlawful, needlessly escalatory, and making all of us less safe, he said. The House last week passed the final 4 of the 12 annual spending bills, including those funding DHS and the Pentagon, typically a GOP priority, and the Labor Department and the Health and Human Services Department, whose priorities are favored by Democrats. I mean, the Wall Street Journal is playing that very cute. The military is a bipartisan priority. Together, those 4 measures would provide more than $1.2 trillion of the more than $1.6 trillion in the government's discretionary spending for fiscal 2026. The House packaged those 4 bills plus 2 more into a single measure and sent it to the Senate. If Senate Democrats want to oppose funding for DHS, they have to oppose the entire collection of bills, including one funding the military, which is about $831 billion. Okay, so again, this is Democrats. We'll believe it when we see it, but it does seem like this killing is a tipping point. But we've seen in the past we're going to join the two bills under Biden, right? And then we're going to take a leap of faith. Democrats say a lot of things. Voting against the package will do little in the short term to curtail immigration enforcement. President Trump's major legislative achievement, which he dubbed the one big beautiful bill, like a regard, provided $4.1 billion to hire and train additional Border Patrol agents. It's my one big beautiful bill. Yeah. Okay. So I gotta say, man, Bernie makes me want to projectile vomit. The closest thing you've got to a base Democrat these days is Ed Markey. I like that cat. These are not rogue agents. This is an all-out assault on American life. ICE is a criminal organization that is entering homes without judicial warrants, detaining witnesses, and killing people, all at the direction of Trump. We must stop funding DHS. There is no other path forward. That's a guy I feel like he actually means it. But hey, you want to see how far this has tipped consensus. Hickenlooper is a neoliberal dirtbag, and he's coming out against funding on the DHS funding bill. And again, he's not using weasel words, which doesn't mean he won't weasel out later. These are Democrats, but straight out, I may no on the DHS funding bill, not I'm a no unless, right? Just straight, I'm a no. Elizabeth Warren, that's really no surprise that she would take that position. Cory Booker is really a profile in douchebaggery. Like, this guy just has his finger in the wind with every statement that he makes. He cannot just come out with the lack of equivocation that fucking Hickenlooper has. ICE operations in Minnesota must end immediately. Congress must not continue funding an out-of-control and unaccountable DHS and ICE that have repeatedly escalated violence and so severely broken laws and constitutional protections. Every minute these ICE operations continue on our streets is another minute they endanger the safety of Americans and further injure our communities. You notice what he doesn't say? I'm not voting on the DHS spending pact. You notice he's very careful not to say that. That's Booker, man. All right. So we have more polls coming out, and it is an absolute disaster. ICE net approval, all -27. Democrats, 91. Independents, -41. Even Republicans working with various personality disorders and cognitive functioning impairment, plus 58%. Plus 58%. I mean, that's weak when you've got this many brown people getting brutalized. They shot a couple of white ones. That's probably what brought it down a bit. Blacks, -75. Hispanic, -41. White, -15.
As always, the independent number is the one to watch. -41 is just beyond devastating.
Right. Polling USA, support for abolishing ICE, 46. Oppose, 41. That's YouGov, January 24th. So that is very recent. That is hot off the presses. And to your point here, we have that breakdown in a New York Times Siena poll taken the 12th to the 17th. Do you think the country is generally better off than it was a year ago, about the same, or worse off? All respondents, 32% think it's better off. 49% think it's worse off. Democrats, 86%. Independents, 52% think it's worse off. Republicans, only 11% say it's worse off. Okay. Sarah Longwell. Brutal new New York Times Siena poll for Trump, -16 net approval, and only 32% of voters say the country is better off than it was a year ago. He's underwater on all the issues. -17 on immigration, -18 on the economy, 19 on foreign relations, 29 on the cost of living, 44 on the Epstein files. And that is only because Michael Tracy kept answering the phone. He has various phone numbers there. He's distorting the numbers. Political polls. Do you support abolishing ICE? Independent voters. 48% say yes, 36% say no among independent voters. And again, there's January 24th, hot off the presses. So certainly the Democrats are looking at those polls. They have to be maybe the most cowardly political party in history. They are only coming out this strongly because the numbers are with them. They could kill a village, and if the polling numbers were bad, the Democrats would vote to fund ICE.
Right.
They're looking at that polling, and finally, when the House vote came up, they weren't convinced. After this latest shooting, looking at the polling all going in this direction, finally, they seem to be willing to shut down the government. But again, these are Democrats. Maybe they shut it down for a week, and then they come to a compromise.
Yeah.
All right. Look, they can wear the mask up to the bottom lip.
Yeah,
Okay,
right,
the bottom lip, but the upper lip has to be uncovered. Okay, yeah, some bullshit like that. I mean, I wouldn't trust the Democrats on anything as far as I could throw them. But yeah, I mean, clearly this has created such a shift in momentum. This has just shocked the conscience to a point that they almost really don't have a choice, at least for the moment. But again, these are Democrats. Like, it will not surprise me at all for them to shut down the government for a few days and accept a few crumbs and declare victory.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never get my hopes up for them holding out for anything ever again. But it does seem that, well, it doesn't seem, they do have leverage here. Now, we should be clear about what leverage they have. As the article mentioned, ICE already has their money kind of set aside to the point where it's not realistic to think that by withholding their funding, they'll be able to grind ICE to a halt.
Right.
They can't do that.
Right.
What they can do is they can use everything else as leverage against ICE. In other words, they could shut down the rest of the system
Right.
until there are major reforms at ICE and just say, look, I mean, this is basically a general strike type tactic, right? Whereas, like, the system's not going to function anymore unless you do this, this, and this regarding ICE, right? That they can do. Now, of course, it takes some stick-to-itiveness to get that done, because in the short term, these operations are going to continue unimpeded since ICE already got their money. But eventually, the government's going to have to function elsewhere. And eventually, that's going to happen. And it's going to happen according to certain terms. And if the Democrats hold out, they have the power to set those terms. They can demand replacing Kristi Noem. You know, they can demand firing Stephen Miller. They're not going to get all these demands, but they can make demands, and they can, as long as they hold out, they can make things happen. It's important not to be so black pill that you let Democrats off the hook and just go totally nihilistic. Well, there's nothing we could do. That's what Hakeem Jeffries said at the beginning of the term.
It's not that they can't. It's that they won't.
No, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's important to keep a sense of perspective that, no, they actually do have some power here, not to immediately halt these operations. They can't do that, but they can use the rest of the system as leverage against the way ICE is currently handling itself. And it's just a question of, will they or won't they, pardon me. And we've seen this movie too many times to be optimistic on that. But to be realistic, we should be clear that they do actually have the power. So if at any point Chuck Schumer starts signaling that they're going to cave, or any of these senators who are a no signal that they're going to cave, that's a time to pick up the phones. And so you better not, like, that's the only thing they can do. And they have to do it now. They have to leave Republicans no option but to nuke the filibuster. And that's a scary thing. They've flirted with that before, but notice the Republicans could have done that over the ACA subsidies. They didn't. Why? Because they're on the wrong side of the issue politically. And in Congress, these politicians want careers, right? They don't all work for Donald Trump. A lot of these politicians are relatively young. They want to sit and collect checks for the next 30 years and then retire. They don't want to get voted out, after 3 terms in Congress. And so they might be hesitant to nuke the filibuster. Maybe they do. Maybe Trump leans on them. That's an internecine fight in the Republican Party that you have to force them to have at this moment, because that's the only thing you can do. It's the only thing you can do. And so it's obviously a no-brainer. You just vote no the whole way through and leave them no choice but to either nuke the filibuster or give you the exact terms you want. But I guess the next step is they have to lay out their terms, right? Like they have to say, okay, here are the conditions under which we'll pass this. Otherwise, it's a no-go.
I think we're through the looking glass. Like, I think those normal political truisms that they're not going to nuke the filibuster, I think you can file that next to the normal political assumption that they're not going to murder American citizens in the street and then try to justify it.
That may be true, but then you make them do it. You still have to make them do it.
Yes.
Sure.
I'm just saying, I don't know that it's as assured that they won't as it was in the past. I'm almost inclined to think that they will. If the Democrats really stand by it, you're talking about a fascist coup. It's just all bets are off now. Like, it is a fascist coup. Like, the kinds of threats and leverage that is going to be brought to bear are going to be very different from what they would have gotten from Darth Cheney.
Yeah, right, exactly. No, I mean, look, that's certainly possible. It's certainly possible, but you have no choice but to just force that issue. Right? Because the reason
they were a real political party, they would.
The reason they've been hesitant to do it, the reason the Republicans have been hesitant to do it, is because they fear the political repercussions of doing it. Because in the legislative branch, these people want their jobs, right? They don't want to lose their jobs, right? These people don't all hang out in the Oval Office all day. That's the executive branch. You're talking about a different group of people. So, look, is it possible that they are just whipped into shape by Donald Trump and they do what the emperor says and they live with the yeah, sure, that's 100% possible. If you're the Democrats, you have no choice but to either force them to do that.
We're not having an election.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Not in the sense of like people voting and the person who wins being who they voted for.
Right, exactly.
We're not having that kind of an election. No more.
I mean, that's always possible. But the fundamental calculus doesn't change. That if you're the Democrats, you have absolutely no choice at this moment but to give them that ultimatum. All right. Let's go to some Rumble rants over here. EO Shush says, I was happy with owning the libs with memes and nicknames of their politicians, but Trump has exceeded my expectations with mass arrests and shooting them in their face and back. This is what I voted for. Yeah, it's giving you more, yo shush. T-Bone says, Russ, you have been looking better than ever since you flew to Asia. Happy and rejuvenated. Are you starting to think about making Southeast Asia home? DD rocks. T-Bone.
Okay, so I knew I was going to get this question. I've said this throughout. Hey, we're in a line of work where crossing borders back and forth into the United States is particularly risky for some people who do what we do. I said from the beginning, there is a non-zero chance that I do not come back at the end of my planned itinerary, at least for a certain period of time. It's entirely possible. In terms of like the question, like, you don't know until you're doing it, like, are you going to enjoy like the lifestyle of like being kind of like a road bum? Yeah, I love it. It totally suits me to wake up in a different place every couple weeks and just explore. So I like it. Some people, like, it would be too unstable for them, or they would feel discombobulated by it. I'm not one of those people. Like, temperamentally, it definitely suits me, so that's not an issue. But really, I got to look at what things look like back there, man. I mean, I have serious concerns about going back over the border.
Right.
Like, not so much concerns of like once I'm there. Partly, honestly, because of where I live specifically, it's kind of like a city state.
Right.
It would be the last place to fall to fascism in the country. So, but it's getting there. I'm a little concerned about. I have to see where things are in the next few months.
Ken G says, just to maintain credibility, Joe Rogan did indeed call Shirley a bright and brilliant kid. He also said, wow, was during an interview with comedian Whitney Cummings. Feel free to fact check. Thank you, Ken. Brian B says, according to a definition of grape, it also means seize, snatch, or carry by force. I suppose Maduro, citizens, and others being grape, you could say that Trump is the graper in chief. Well, in more ways than one. John M says, okay, there you go. It's just math equals C 5/9 Fahrenheit minus 32. That's what I saw. Yeah, that's what I said. It was 1.8 plus. So 1.8 plus 30. Or I guess I had in my mind it was 30. Is it 1.8 plus 32? That's what I always had in my mind. Sir Bikes a lot. Thanks for the $2. Says recommended the book Green Wizardry by John Michael Greer will help you start raising chickens and growing veggies. You'll learn why we all go to the grocery store. Thank you, Sir Bikes a lot. Hindsight is 2020. Makes you think all those school shootings was a psyop to keep guns out of the left and put all the guns in the fascist hands. Yeah, there's no look. I know it's romantic and all, but you're no match for the government. It's as simple as that. When you think about it, the reason ICE hasn't launched a mass invasion of New York, many of these ICE hicks wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a Hasidic Jew and a Muslim. They also would get the avenues in the streets confused. They'd be standing there with their maps. Are we on 4th Avenue? No, we're on 4th Street. Oh, which way is 4th Avenue? 4th Avenue small. Why small? What do you mean small? They would get lost. All right.
Taurus.
Yeah, exactly. All right. You got some super chats?
I do. Prester John. Minneapolis PD has 600 officers. They are outnumbered 5-1 by 3,000 ICE agents who want local PD to control the chaos caused by ICE. Yeah, see, that's part of the Giuliani legacy in New York. If New York's police force were an army, it would be the world's 11th largest army. The rotten flesh. Keaton Russell, please discuss gold prices. They surged to $49.99.20 to close on Friday, and the rich are fighting to keep it down. Please comment. I can directly comment on this because I was holding a gold ETF forever. And when it got up around 5,000, I sold. And, it was just the other day. And it actually kept going. But, there's a saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. It went up too far, too fast. I don't trust it. I think there will be a pullback. And then I'll probably buy back in. But yeah, in terms of like what it says, of course, man. Of course. Like the world is looking at what's going on in the United States. They see the end of American, the Pax Americana, such as it was, ending, and the inevitable collapse of the dollar as a result. So everybody's buying gold. That's what they do when they don't know what the next currency is going to be, what the next stable asset is going to be. I mean, in the end, I do think gold has a lot further to go. I just think there's going to be profit taking that's going to bring it down. But yeah, I think it'll break above 5,000 ultimately. Especially, you got to remember, if you believe the dollar's going to collapse, who knows what gold will be, because there's no obvious successor, unlike in past transitions from great powers. Like, because of the system that China has, a lot of people don't trust the yuan because the government has unlimited control over what they want to do with their currency. It makes people nervous. The euro is very tied to the dollar. It's hard to imagine the dollar goes down and the euro doesn't go down with it. So yeah, No, gold. Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. I mean, I think it's going to go a lot further. Rachel Horning, the war on drugs, the old reliable every damn time, right? Right? It's an oldie but a goodie. Dave, 1984. Obviously, what ICE is doing is dangerous and insane, but these lifts seemed awfully fine with 2023 and 24 hitting records on, what's that?
Police shootings, is that what that is?
That and self deletions. Hey, if you watch the show, we're not fans of the libs. I mean, we'd be the last people to defend the libs. Lex B. One does not establish a dictatorship in order to safeguard a revolution. One makes the revolution in order to establish the dictatorship. Or as Frank Herbert said, rebels are closet aristocrats. Ton Quinn B. A little off topic, Sabi is the only person I've seen report on the death of the Israeli judge heading the corruption investigation of Bibi, killed in suspicious car accident. I didn't even hear that. When did that happen?
I heard that. I mean, I don't know when that was. By now, it was probably a couple of weeks ago. No. I mean, are you suggesting that's more important than the milk mustache cum story that we did? Is that what you're saying? That we should have prioritized that? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, no, like in all seriousness, it's a good point. There are so many stories every day that inevitably some are just going to get lost in the shuffle. Like there's so many things that we wish we could cover that we just don't have the bandwidth for, honestly. So yeah, that would be one of them.
By the way, I don't know why this happened, but it moved from the right side to the left side.
I am Landrew. Landrew is dead.
All right.
Very confusing. Giovanni Polidori. Just to confuse Russ, snowing in Toronto 20 centimeters so far, expecting 30 centimeters. That's what, like 3 inches?
Well, 30 centimeters is a foot. We're expecting more. We're supposed to get 20 inches here today and then another 5 to 6 tomorrow. So we're supposed to get right around 2 feet. And it is coming down pretty heavy right now as I look out the window.
Alex Das Lieb. Early show start. Tell me it's not another Michael Tracy interview. No, it's Tuesday.
No, we're doing this in anticipation of possible power outages that would make the show impossible to do later in the day because I'm getting 2 feet here, so it could very well knock out my power.
Michael Castillo, 1979, gifted 1 Due Dissidence membership. Thank you, Michael Castillo.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
And Terabang 5000, I'm sending you none of the above T-shirts I made. Oh,
thank you. That's very kind of you.
All right, you want to go to some Rumble rants?
I did some Rumble rants.
You did it.
My next segment. I'll do a couple more because we got a lot of them here. Morty Duke, we're here to protect the people of Minnesota, even if we have to kill every one of them. Mark Puglisi says, for 10 years, I said they now intend to treat us all like Palestinians. Eventually. General note, says Cool Blue, take care all who are affected by ice and or snowstorms and freezing temperatures for safety and all other needs. I am in Detroit, Michigan. We are forecast for, say, 5 inches of snow. That's all? Only 5? You're getting off easy out there. EO Shush, I just saw a video where it appears the Reno 911 ICE agent who pulled out the gun from Freddie holster while walking away pulled the trigger, which set off the execution of Freddie. Yeah, that's how I said when we covered it. It looked like when he grabbed the gun and walked away, he may have fired the first shot at the ground, and then that could have startled the others into shooting. That is definitely possible. It definitely looked that like that was a possibility. Aggressively Lazy says he is Landrew. He could do without a sound drop. He will be back. That's right. Okay, we are going to move right on along here. Okay, so some other news in the world. Miss Rachel is in trouble for no reason again. YouTube star Miss Rachel emotionally apologizes for liking anti-Semitic comment, says it was an accident. YouTube star Miss Rachel posted an emotional apology video on Wednesday after accidentally liking an anti-Semitic comment on Instagram. The controversy began after Recurso, that's her last name, appeared to like an anti-Semitic comment under one of her Instagram posts that read "Free America from the Jews." That was the comment. That wasn't her Instagram post. A user later noticed the interaction and contacted her via direct message. So here's one of her fans says, "Hi, Rachel. Just want to let you know there's a comment under your latest post that says Free America from the Jews that says liked by the author. I'm sure that's just an accident, so I wanted to let you know." So Miss Rachel says, "Deleted. How horrible. Oh, wait, let me check. I did delete one like that. Yeah, I believe I deleted that earlier right when I saw it. I hate anti-Semitism." So I guess she meant to delete it and she accidentally hit like and hide as opposed to delete. I don't use Instagram, so I don't really know what the mechanics of that are. But obviously there would have been no reason. I mean, it's like the most obvious thing in the world that there's nothing in it for Miss Rachel to like a comment like that. I might like a comment like that, but Miss Rachel wouldn't.
Ms. Rachel is made of finer
Come
stuff.
for me, bitch. Right. Yeah, no, Miss Rachel is like the Joan of Arc of this space. Like, you fuck with Miss Rachel, that's war. Okay, you don't fuck with Miss Rachel. Okay, I'll throw hands for Ms. Rachel. You have to lay off. I would never agree with an anti-Semitic thing like the comment Accurso said during an apology video posted on her TikTok Wednesday. So here she is, very emotional and contrite, as they say.
Thought I deleted a comment and I accidentally hit like and hide. I don't know how or why. I've accidentally liked comments before. It happens. Like, I'm a human who makes mistakes. I would never agree with an anti-Semitic thing like the comment. We have Jewish family. A lot of my friends are Jewish. I delete anti-Semitic comments. I have proof because yesterday somebody messaged me. There was a comment that said that. So I said, yes, I saw that and I deleted it because that's what I thought happened. And then I said, I hate anti-Semitism. And so the internet, I guess, has picked it up, believing that that's what happened. I feel like we can't be human anymore online. Like, we can't. And I'm so sorry for the confusion it caused. I'm so sorry if anyone thought that I would ever agree with something horrible and anti-Semitic like that. I don't want to say that it is okay to be human and it's okay to make mistakes. And I'm old, so I am not as good with touching things online, I guess. I have liked things by accident before it's happened and I've been like, oh my gosh, let me unlike that. I can't believe I accidentally liked that. Like, it's happened to me before. And my advocacy is wonderful and beautiful and I'm so proud of it.
Happens to guys like Benny Johnson all the time with like gay sex posts. He accidentally likes them and then he means to delete them, but he hits it by accident.
Then he goes on the air and talks about how he's getting ads from Grindr, not realizing that indicates his activity online.
And there's nothing wrong
by
with
the
it.
way, was it like 3 months now? He hasn't sued.
Yeah, Milo. I don't think it's been quite that long, but it's been a while. It's been a while since he promised to do it.
Too.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be controversial to say how kids deserve to be treated. Like, everyone who knows me knows that I would never like that, and the message shows that I said I deleted that. That's what I thought happened. That was yesterday. My husband just came in here and said, look what I found that people are posting. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I deleted that.
All right. Well, look, I mean, she's a nice person. It's not a big deal. From one Jew to another, I give you permission. Somebody accuses you of anti-Semitism now. Your response should just be, fuck you, suck my dick. Should be it. And that goes for men and women. Miss Rachel should have posted that online. Fuck you, suck my dick. That would have been a proper response.
This is the curse of decent people.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're not a decent person, right, you feel very protective of people like this because you feel like, man, if that were me, I would tell them to fucking rip off their dick and shove it up their ass. Like,
exactly.
You can see because she's such a kind person, she's taking them seriously and according them a respect they don't at all deserve as if they're honest actors.
Exactly. Like, they're taking advantage of her good nature, right? Because they know she's going to be hurt by it, right?
Exactly. And if you're not a good-natured person, you see the way that you apply that quality for good is by protecting people like Ms. Rachel, by saying things that she won't and doing things she never would.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, the right response to these people is just to tell, suck the shit out of my ass.
Yeah.
She added in a
Felch me,
statement.
bitch.
Yeah, felch me, bitch. That's good. Felch me, bitch. I like that. That's good. We should use that. Ms. Rachel gives it felch me, bitch. Cut a hole in my overalls and stick a straw in my ass. You don't like it.
That would be kind of awesome.
That would be fucking great. She
Get a
added
whole
in a
new fan base.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to like that post. It popped up on my feed.
I gotta tell you, this is better than the Cookie Monster. I can tell you that. This Miss Rachel Broad, they didn't have this on PBS when I was growing up.
If only I might not have driven my wife to suicide.
I used to have to imagine Grover in a tutu and tickle my balls. I didn't have Miss Rachel to look at back in my day.
She added in a statement to Fox News Digital on Wednesday, I accidentally liked a hateful comment on my social media while trying to delete it. So this is her comment to Fox News. I have always been completely clear on this. I do not support language that targets or harms the Jewish community or any community. Anti-Semitism and hate of any kind have no place in my life or my work. Everything I do is rooted in kindness, inclusion, and care for all humanity. Those values guide me every day, and I remain firmly committed to them. The New York Post reported that the comment appeared under a post of a statement from a Curso's Notes app that read, Free Palestine, Free Sudan, Free Congo, Free Iran. See, she's so innocent, she doesn't even know that the Free Iran movement is a Mossad op. See, she's too innocent to even know that. That's why she's innocent enough to feel bad about having been accused of anti-Semitism, right? She's not a political person. Miss Rachel caught liking Call to Free America from the Jews, claims she was just tapping to delete in tearful apology. So this is the pile-on, and it's funny how Fox News references the New York Post as if they're not essentially the same outlet. They're both Murdoch owned, but this is how they frame it. Controversial kids YouTuber. Right away, she's not controversial.
With who?
Controversial with who? Right. Controversial with people who like murdering babies by the tens of thousands. That's who she's controversial with. Has admitted liking a vile anti-Semitic Instagram comment calling for America to be free from the Jews while trying to cry it off as an innocent mistake, saying she thought she was deleting it. The social media star, whose real name is Rachel Griffin Accurso, was forced to issue a groveling apology. Like, look at the editorializing. Late Wednesday, after she ignited a firestorm on social media over the glaring mishap. What firestorm? I didn't see the firestorm. The tech-savvy toddler whisperer, look at that, copped to liking the vile comment someone left on one of her posts, only after a fan informed her privately of the apparent error. The ADL joined the pile-on. The online discourse about Ms. Rachel isn't new. Right now, the children's entertainer is being criticized for liking an anti-Semitic comment under her posts. Let's be honest. Society can go back and forth debating whether this was intentional or a mistake. No, we can't go back and forth. It was obviously a mistake. What is in it for her to like a comment like that? But we'll get absolutely nowhere. Here's the real question. Ms. Rachel, as someone whose brand has been built on advocating for others, wouldn't this have been a perfect opportunity to separate yourself from hateful internet trolls and use your platform to unequivocally condemn all forms of anti-Semitism? She did. That's what the video did. You make content for impressionable minds, yet some people are using more political posts as an excuse to spread hatred. Speaking out would help inoculate your social media brand from turning into an echo chamber for anti-Semitism. So that's, of course, I mean, this is typical of the ADL. That's a veiled threat to harass you and possibly sue you. We know they have 50,000 lawyers on standby to go after people. She did, in fact, make a video disavowing anti-Semitism and saying that she liked that. Not only did she like it in error, she liked it by accident when she was going to delete it. So here, Ro Khanna talking about voting no on the defense funding bill that would continue to support billions in arms sales to Israel. To which Stop Anti-Semitism says, you also support anti-Semite Ms. Rachel. So we're not surprised you're attempting to cut off Israel's ability to defend itself against Palestinian terrorists. Blah, blah, blah. Rick Scott says, we're past the point of this being a mistake. It's a pattern. Ms. Rachel hates Israel, surrounds herself with people who hate Israel, and supports anti-Semites like Mamdani, who refuse to globalize the Intifada, which, as I understand, he did condemn that. But look at this bottom-feeding piece of shit. So this is apparently her cousin. Jeff Lawrence is the cousin of toddler TV show host and Mamdani supporter Ms. Rachel. He's telling everyone that she is a raging anti-Semite and terrible person. More shocking than that is the fact that she earned $50 million a year.
Ms. Rachel is at it again. She's my cousin, sadly. She married into my family. She married my cousin Aaron, whose father's my first cousin. And this time, she said that she accidentally hit a button that Jews should be erased from America. And she's so upset about it. I didn't mean to do it, and the internet's so mean. She plays the victim. Oh, we should feel sorry for her. She's making more than $50 million a year. It's quite questionable where a lot of this money comes from. It certainly looks like the funding is coming, if not from Hamas, from certainly Muslim Islamic organizations, extremist organizations, funding the indoctrination of children all over.
I'm sorry, based on what?
So please go to my GoFundMe. My handle is grifting scumbag.
Yeah, my out of work alcoholic loser cousin. Yeah, who decides this is going to be my 15 minutes of fame, is trashing my cousin by marriage and slandering her by saying, yeah, it seems like she's getting this money from some kind of rat. Like, what are you even talking about?
Right.
How do you just say a thing like that without providing any evidence for it whatsoever? Ms. Rachel has billions of views on YouTube. She's got a Netflix deal. She's got merchandising deals. She's everywhere. Of course, she's making a ton of money. Like in what world are you living in?
Yeah, why would she not be? Why would she not be making?
Why would she not be? Like a massive
star. I'm tangentially connected to a famous person, and I'm hoping I can build a grift off attacking her.
Yeah, like get a fucking real job, man. Get a real job. It's hard now that they've automated most of the toll booths in America. That really limits what you're qualified to do. That's still available for people. But
7-Eleven is an option.
Yeah.
$1 a year. It's quite questionable where a lot of this money comes from. It certainly looks like the funding is coming, if not from Hamas, from certainly Muslim Islamic organizations, extremist organizations, funding the indoctrination of children all over the world. Ms. Rachel is desperately hiding that her children and her husband are of Jewish descent.
She says in the video that she has Jews in her family. She says that. Yeah. So she's not desperately hiding anything. Where the fuck did this piece of shit come from?
She does not want that out. And I want to tell you something about Miss Rachel's great-grandmother, her children's great-great-grandmother, who's my grandmother, Rose. This is a very, very hard-working, proud Jewish immigrant that fled Europe in the early 1900s because of anti-Semitism. This woman comes from a house that had a mud floor. She raised 7 kids in the Depression by herself. My grandfather died at a young age, and they had to move out of the Lower East Side because she was facing anti-Semitism on the Lower East Side. Horribly abused in part by mostly Irish, but other ethnic groups, and then moved to the South Bronx, where she was also the victim of anti-Semitism her entire life. And let me tell you something. This woman would slap Rachel in the face to think that her great-grandchildren are being raised by this psychopath that indoctrinates children to hate Jews all over the world. I am her family. She is an anti-Semite. She is a hardcore Jew hater. How do I know? I've never even met her. She lives in New York. I've lived in New York. We both lived here for decades.
How do I know? I'll tell you how I know about her.
That's the punchline. That's the punchline. He's so fucking he rates so low in her family. He never actually met her. Hang on. So let me get this straight. So is he Jewish? Is that what he's saying?
I guess so. I don't know.
He's
I mean,
no,
I don't think he's Jewish, because I think he may be Jewish, but that would be.
Hang on. Whose grandmother is he talking about?
I guess
he's related to her by marriage.
He married into the family. Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah,
right. So what grandmother is he talking about?
yeah. So it's
He's
wait.
talking
So
about
it's his
Jewish
grandmother. Yeah.
So is it his grandmother? All right. So he's a Zionist freak.
Yeah,
that's what this is.
I mean, he's a loser who we're not giving any more time to. That's just a completely unhinged, bottom feeding scumbag. It was like, oh yeah, let me get 15 minutes of fame by blowing the lid off. I love how he says, you know how I know all this about her? Because I never met her.
And it also sounds like his great grandmother was a lying psycho cunt that naturally bred somebody like him, because the Lower East Side was dominated by guess who? Jews.
Yeah.
In that era, was dominated by Jews. So she came off the Lower East Side saying she had to leave the Lower East Side because she didn't have her community around her. She was probably a psycho.
Yeah, probably a very low quality person.
Very low quality.
Very low quality. All right, we will move right on along here. Let's see. That's those are the super chats. I need the Rumble rant. Sonic Warhol says, "Rest in peace, Michael Parenti, a true hero of the left." Yes, we have our intermission as a tribute to the late Michael Parenti. Yes, of course. Russ made a tribute to him, which will be on the intermission before the Q&A.
I'm gonna grab a non-super chat. Yeah, they were in the area called Little Italy, which is adjacent to it, but that's not the Lower East Side. I mean, of course, you had like some in that area, actually in the part that now you would call the East Village, where they shot Robert De Niro, where Don Corleone as a young man lived. They actually shot that on East 6th Street, which would have been historically accurate. Like that was a little Italian section in what you would call the East Village today. The part that we still call the Lower East Side, that was the Jewish section.
Everything's a scam. Everything's a lie. Your rulers hate nothing more than you using your own eyes. Thank you, Vianticus. Mark Puglisi says, the killing of this guy reminds me of that 21-year-old EMT that was shot by a sniper while administering to a wounded in the Great March of Return. Thank you, Mark Puglisi. EO Shush, look at them showing real courage, boldly demanding body cams that ICE can turn on whenever they feel like it. No pressure, though. If you're in the mood, great. If not, whatever, totally cool. Thank you, EO Shush. The China Shell says, hi, guys. Rest in peace, Michael Parenti, an intellectual giant of the left, a real paisan, as he would say. So much I want to say about ICE. Best not say in a live stream. Best news commentary around. Thanks, China Shell. And yes, as I said, Russ has a tribute to Michael Parenti on the intermission, which we will show shortly. Coming down the home stretch, only a couple more things to tend to here. But go ahead, take some super chats first.
All right. What do we got? Brad Gilbert. Make Trump look credible. 45-10. He lost the 10% libertarians. Mega takeover of MAGA has cost him 50% of the GOP's 45%. He's at 20-25% approval. I don't know, man. If you look at that, Republicans like 11% think the country is on the wrong track. Like,
no, he's in
and Democrats are the same way when a Democrat's in power. It's not a Republican. It's just that's why we don't play the team sports anymore. Dave, 1984. The only thing about calling this moment a fascist coup is that it implies the U.S. didn't choose fascism ages ago. This was always us. AKYKJS. Yeah, I mean, definitely the groundwork for that was there. I think that there were moments in our history when we could have taken a better path, and that's obviously not what we did. That kid Pulley. Shouldn't we be pushing third party more than ever now, guy? I voted for Stein last election. I knew Kamala and Trump are two sides of the same coin. Well, we voted for Stein in solidarity with the Palestinian groups who were advocating for that, not out of any particular belief in Jill Stein or the Green Party, frankly. I think this, sure. We support Jose, right? You know, I mean, he's running in the Democratic primary for strategic reasons. But in the end, he's an independent when and if he doesn't win that primary, he's staying on the ballot. So yeah, sure. But again, the system is so corrupt. I think, yeah, you can have a third party strategy, but it's got to be connected to a labor strategy and a strike strategy, particularly a general strike strategy
Yeah.
to be effective, I think. Foxtastic. Just in CBS News, Bondi seeks Minnesota voter rolls and welfare data to help bring back law and order. Wishes to confirm Minnesota vote registration practices comply with federal law. Yeah, we had that in our segment.
Yep.
Skyman. America's in a civil war, a war between two parties, the old oligarchs and the upstart techno fascists. And in history, the old power doesn't put down the upstart because it thinks it can use it, only to be destroyed by it. Yeah, you ever watch Professor Zhang? He talks a lot about this, although he incorporates elements of Peter Turchin's ideas about elite overproduction, which I agree with. Race car. From Russ's pictures with elephants, there is wisdom behind those elephant eyes, maybe even more than us humans. I wish we could fully communicate with them. Yeah, man. Like I said, eventually that footage will drop. It'll probably be 3-4 videos on before I get to that.
Right.
But yeah, man, like watching how they interacted with each other, they were really smart and very emotional. Very interesting. Ben Riley Spider, didn't Rittenhouse bring a gun to a protest? Sure did.
Sure did. So you got a lot of
Sure
people
did.
watching this or pretty far behind because we started early. That's probably what it is.
Right. Dave, 1984. I thought I removed that first super chat and wasn't saying you defend libs. Ah, well, here's another $5. The chat autocorrect is fighting me. Yeah, I've heard that from some people. It does that sometimes. All right, I'll bang out one more. The Blue Noble. We need wealth enforcement division of our armed forces that exists primarily to redistribute wealth. Well, that's what you call a communist revolution there. Did you do your Rumble rants?
Yes.
You did, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we into CBS?
Yep. CBS.
Okay. This is from Mediaite. CBS News contributor killed by Israel just weeks after his wedding. 3 journalists, including a CBS News contributor, were killed in an Israeli strike outside a camp for displaced people in Gaza on Wednesday. Abdel Raouf Shat, a contributor to CBS News and agency France Press, was killed along with Mohammed Kishta and Anas Ghanim after their car was hit by an Israeli strike while leaving a camp for displaced people. According to reports, the 3 journalists were recording footage of the camp while on assignment for the media arm of an Egyptian relief committee. After leaving the camp, their car was struck by the Israeli military just a mile away. In a statement, the Israel Defense Forces accused the journalists, without providing evidence, of operating a drone affiliated with, you guessed it, Hamas! Hamas! Everything is Hamas. This is from the Israel War Room, so-called. IDF troops identified several suspects who operated a drone affiliated with Hamas in central Gaza. How was the drone affiliated with Hamas? Don't know. In a manner that posed a threat to their safety. Following the identification and due to the threat that the drone posed to the troops, the IDF precisely struck the suspects who activated the drone. Now, I can tell you, as somebody who was propagandized, or, didn't really take with me, but they tried to propagandize me into Zionism from childhood, this myth of infallibility and precision of the IDF is part of their propaganda. Like that word precisely is not accidentally chosen. They're really into conveying themselves as being. This is why they were so excited about the beeper thing, because it played to that idea of IDF just being the absolute best, most brilliant soldiers in the world. In its own statement, AFP, and the most moral as well. In its own statement, AFP mourned the loss of its contributor and demanded a full investigation into his killing. Quote, "We are in mourning for the loss of our colleague, Abdul Rauf Shat, who was a regular contributor to AFP's production for nearly 2 years," said AFP, adding that Shat was much loved and remembered as a kind-hearted colleague with a gentle sense of humor and as a deeply committed journalist. The news organization continued, "AFP demands a full and transparent investigation into his death. Far too many local journalists have been killed in Gaza over the past 2 years, while foreign journalists remain unable to enter the territory freely." CBS News president Tom Sibrowski also informed staff of the news in a call on Wednesday morning, revealing that the journalist had just gotten married a few weeks prior. While not on assignment for CBS News at the time of his death, the news organization stated that Shat, quote, filed regularly for CBS News from the city of Khan Yunis during the war in Gaza, even sending video from the back of an ambulance on one occasion when he was wounded. CBS News is owned by David Ellison, a close associate of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and led by pro-Israel commentator Barry Weiss, who has visited Israel more than 15 times. At least 258 journalists and media workers have been killed since the beginning of the war in Gaza in 2023, according to the International Federation of Journalists. So, the International Federation of Journalists put out a statement. 3 journalists were killed in an Israeli airstrike on a vehicle in Gaza. We condemn Israel's latest massacre during the ceasefire and demand accountability. Committee to Protect Journalists put out a statement. CPJ is appalled by the Israeli strike on a clearly marked civilian vehicle carrying journalists in central Gaza, killing freelance photojournalist Abed Shat and 2 other members of the press. Israel possesses advanced surveillance and targeting technology capable of identifying journalists, rendering any claims of misidentification implausible. The attack is a stark reminder of the tremendous dangers journalists, like other civilians, continue to face even during an active ceasefire. And that is Sarah Kuda, the regional director for the organization. Here's Clayton Morris. It's odd that CBS News makes no mention of this on their website. Why is Barry Weiss's CBS ignoring the targeting of one of their own journalists? Curious. And this is over their article about it. Now, we're not going to read that article. It covers a lot of the ground of the Mediaite article, albeit much less pointedly and much less accurately, not mentioning, for example, that Israel offers absolutely no evidence for its claims that they're affiliated with Hamas. So this is CBS, in part, their take. 3 journalists killed in Israeli airstrike in Gaza, including cameraman who worked with CBS News. The Israel Defense Forces released a statement saying troops, quote, identified several suspects who operated a drone affiliated with Hamas in the central Gaza Strip in a manner that posed a threat to their safety, and then struck the suspects who activated the drone. The IDF said details of the incident are being reviewed. Wow, they're really mad about this.
I mean, it really is amazing how similar it is to the way Homeland Security describes the killing in Minnesota this week. Well, he had a gun and he was there. Well, did he threaten you with the gun? Well, he brought a gun to a protest. That was a threat. Did he use it? No. Well, that's not the point. I mean, it really is very similar.
Well, Hamas is the domestic terrorist or Antifa. This is their version of that. According to an eyewitness, the journalists were using a drone to take images of aid distribution by the Egyptian Relief Committee in the Gaza Strip when a strike targeted a vehicle accompanying them, AFP reported. The Egyptian aid group confirmed one of its vehicles was targeted by Israel in a strike that killed 3 people. Notice the difference from the Mediaite article, and they're the ones whose stringer got killed here.
Yep.
Just that's what the Israelis say. So here is adult circumcision victim and cuck supreme. Guy gets his adult dick cut only for his wife to take the kids and move to Israel.
That's right.
Leave him with his maimed cock all alone. He can play with his maimed dick while his wife is fucking Shlomo over there in Jerusalem. So here's his reporting on the murder of his colleague.
Gaza since October's ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. An Israeli airstrike today killed 3 journalists. Israel said it was targeting a group operating a drone affiliated with Hamas. One of those journalists, Abed Sha'at, has worked for CBS as a photographer. His colleagues described the 30-year-old as a brave person doing dangerous work. He was married just 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. So absolutely no contradiction or questioning of Israel's claim that he was Hamas. You're labeling him Hamas. You're essentially accepting that he was Hamas. Oh, but he was a nice guy. He got married, but he was Hamas. He was one of the nice Hamas people. Zachary Carter, come work for CBS News. If you die, we'll say you were maybe a terrorist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Max Blumenthal, phony Dokoupil sells out his Gaza-based colleague who was murdered by Israel while filming an Egyptian humanitarian initiative with a drone camera. Ashok Kumar, this is sickening. Israel continues killing journalists and civilians. More than 500 have been killed since the ceasefire. In vehicle airstrikes, up to 1 in 5 deaths involve people burned alive, trapped, incinerated. The pain is beyond comprehension. A CBS journalist is killed this way, and CBS still blames Hamas instead of telling the truth. There's Zateo Prem Thacker writing for the outlet. Why would any journalist feel comfortable working for Barry Weiss when she won't even call for justice if the network's journalists are killed by Israel? Well, of course she won't. That's what she's there for. And he continues, all that CBS has communicated to the world is what was already known. Abed Shot was killed, and it expressed no interest in exploring how or why. Worse, CBS recited the Israeli claim that Shot and the other journalists were operating a drone affiliated with Hamas. Yeah, this is exactly what we expected CBS to be when they paid off Barry Weiss to the tune of $150 million for a failed newsletter. Failed. That is not hyperbolic. We've demonstrated this again and again, as have many others. Glenn has demonstrated this on his show. If you look at the numbers for the Free Press, it failed. It failed. The only reason the Free Press kept going is because Barry Weiss was putting out Zionist propaganda and oligarch propaganda that people like Mark Andreessen liked funding. They liked what she was saying. They were giving her money to keep putting out that propaganda, but had very low viewership on YouTube, very low readership on Substack. She got $150 million to do exactly this, to not question it if Israel goes and murders one of CBS's own journalists. The problem with what they have done with torching their reputation so thoroughly, so quickly, is there is no obvious audience for this version of CBS. The mostly liberal audience that saw it as the network of Cronkite have fled. And people who get their news on YouTube, which seems to be the sensibility they wanted Barry Weiss to bring, in spite of the fact that she failed on YouTube, they're not going to come over. They didn't watch it on YouTube. They're going to watch this Free Press inflected version of CBS in a medium that younger people don't watch. So you've alienated the older people who still get their news this way, and young people are not going to watch it. The only question is it like network because the money's really coming from Oracle where they can afford to lose money? It's really coming from daddy, Larry Ellison, where it's very much like network where, Mr. Ruddy feels very strongly about the message Howard Beale is putting out, and he wants to keep him on the air, right? They want to pull him off because Beale's ratings have plummeted, but Mr. Ruddy, who owns the networks, likes the message, and he keeps him on. He doesn't care if it's losing money. Because the money is coming from Oracle, can they afford to just run this propaganda network that nobody watches? Do they feel there's a value in just blocking a real news network from functioning in that space? Like, even if no one's watching it, that means at least somebody who might actually try to do journalism isn't in control of CBS. We'll see. A lot of people feel there was just an article out recently about how Oracle is going to completely collapse because its stock price is way overvalued. At that point, do they have to fire sale CBS? It's an open question, but it's been kind of remarkable, very much like the Trump administration itself, how quickly they burned the place down.
Yeah. And I mean, what are the odds this would happen, within a couple months of you, taking over and just having completely burned it to the ground? I mean, it goes to show you how, you may think that a ship can kind of steer itself on autopilot for a while, but it really can't. Like when you have people who are this incompetent and this just shitty in general, at the helm, things go to hell really, really fast. Really fast. And it doesn't take long for these biases, to reveal themselves. But yeah, the fact that they just kind of gloss over, this is what the IDF says, and he was just married. So all right, moving on. Like that's it. You don't say we demand accountability for this, we demand an investigation for this. Nothing. Just, oh yeah, he was killed and they say he was a terrorist, and we don't know.
Hamas.
He just got married. Everybody who we know says he's a nice guy, but they say he's a terrorist, and so that's what happened. All right, moving on. Really shameful, but not surprising at all. Now imagine if one of their colleagues was killed at the Free Iran protests, or in Ukraine, or in Venezuela somewhere. Forget about it.
Oh my God. Well, it wouldn't just be CBS. It would be
everybody.
The whole corporate media.
Yeah, it'd be the whole world. Absolutely. All right, folks. We're going to move right on along here. We got one more segment on the day, but we are going to Q&A afterwards. Everybody on this list has call-in access to our Q&A. That's right. If you would like what we do here, the best way to support us is by becoming a member at dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. That's right, / I said it again. I say it every time. And I say every time, you guys are the backbone of the show. You get bonus content, call-in access to our Q&As, and ad-free versions of every live stream emailed directly to you the day after they air online. So if you miss a stream live and you don't want to watch it back with commercial interruption, then the ad-free live stream replay comes in handy. People enjoy that perk very much. You also get the good karma of supporting independent media and keeping this show afloat. You guys are the backbone of the show. We say it every time, and we mean it every time. These are the folks that make it happen. We'll leave the scroll up while we take some chats here before our final segment of the day. Ravid Laz says, announcer voice, USA, where you have the choice between obnoxious fascism or polite fascism. That's right. Thank you, Ravid Laz. I got some silver. You think I should sell it? I know any advice you give isn't professional, whatever, for legal reasons, but I trust you, Russell. Silver is up now. Yeah, silver is up.
All the precious metals are up. Yeah. I mean, so silver's been running up along with gold. Look, I mean, long term, I think you're going to get a dollar collapse, which is going to make precious metals go through the roof. I don't look at silver as closely as I do gold. But yeah, man, I mean, I think you're going to get some profit taking. That was my theory that I sold on. We'll see in a couple weeks if I was right. If that shit hits $7,000, I'm going to be crying. But it seemed to. The reason I really sold was it surged on the Greenland thing, and when Trump tacoed, I was like, all right, well, it'll pull back, but it kept running, man. I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't.
All right. Vienticus Prime says, in relation to the ICE memo from the other day, I was pointing out that administrative warrants have been used for years under the premise that renters don't have Fourth Amendment protections. Well, that's true. They could go to the landlord. That's interesting. Interesting. Felch me, bitch, RFK Jr. I'd be ecstatic to watch. Felch me, bitch is merch gold. Yeah, that is good. I like that. Felch me, bitch. Sent you fellas a mock-up design of a Felch me, bitch t-shirt through your email. Feel free to use it. All right.
Already? Wow,
Yeah,
that's
wow,
fast work.
You work quick. The Anticus Prime says, I saw a house centipede in my living room the other day. It was clear that it was an agent of Hamas Rothschild's Amalek Nation of Israel. TM even told me so. Ravid Lion says, that cousin is probably one of those distant relatives that you've never met or even knew existed, but as soon as you'd have some success, comes out of nowhere just to ask you for money. Yeah. Yep. A real bottom-feeding, classless piece of work that guy is. The Anticus Prime says, isn't it funny how the loudest voices in society are the ones that in actuality do little more than look for reasons to inflict harm on others? Absolutely. All right, let's take some super chats, and then we'll do our final segment of the day.
All right. Louise Brooks, OMG, I love when Keaton gets the giggles. He reminds me so much of my nephew.
That was
Russ, I visited Phuket years ago. All right, you want to talk about a t-shirt? I have for years wanted to make a Phuket fuck it t-shirt. That'll sell like hotcakes.
Should do the Big Lebowski Phuket dude, let's go bowling.
Except for the brothels trafficking, the people were lovely. I may have gotten into a few altercations with Johns. You know what? So you know what I noticed? It's kind of interesting. Bangkok, everywhere, like the massage parlors that are, that entertainment massage, right? Not in Chiang Mai. Like, I really haven't seen that. Like, the massage places are like legit. You know where I'm going to do it, and I'm doing it because it's like it's part of the Thailand thing. Like, I'm not the type to really go get a massage, but there's a women's correctional massage place where they train women from prison to do it. That's where I'm going to go for a Thai massage.
All right.
Check it off while I'm still in Thailand. I got a Thai massage in Thailand from a woman who stabbed her wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
What democracy? Shocked Zio cousin not invited for Thanksgiving dinner by Mizzo. Yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like, man. It sounds like he's a fucking drooling Zionist psycho. P.L. Sandridge descended from mental defectives from the Lower East Side. ICE agents and Trump is coming, and we are still on our
There you go.
Yeah, everyone's thinking of that song right now. Samed, why would Dems willingly curtail a department they spent 2 presidents building? Maybe one day we will thank Trump for showing us the intended use sooner than later. You know what, man? No lies detected. I'm with you, man. You're right. Jolly Man Big Boy, I call TPUSA Tupusa. Fewer syllables.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
Well done.
Jolly Man Big Boy, I broke the code. Remember how Hal in 2001, his code for IBM is each letter backwards? Take IDF and go 1 letter backwards in the last 2 spaces. ICE. Wow. You're one of those like code breakers there.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do this last one.
Yeah. If you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's
do
rock
it?
and roll.
All
Let's
right.
rock and roll.
You're like, no,
Since
I'm going.
I am our Australian correspondent.
Yeah.
I'm the Aussie correspondent. New hate laws have passed Parliament. What do they actually do? This is Australia's Parliament. Now, I never thought I've been following these guys for a while. Our Aussies will probably know who they are. I never thought I was going to get to use them. So the Juice Media, they do these kind of mock political ads about Australian politics. Now, this goes back to 2021. just to give you an idea of how long this has been brewing, because Australia, it's very strange, but Australia has been on a tear for suppressing speech and trampling on civil liberties of their citizens for quite a while now. In fact, when I first saw this, I thought this video was in response to what just happened. Then I saw it's from 2021.
Australian government. As you may have noticed, we're in the process of transitioning to authoritarianism.
Don't worry, you don't need to do anything. In fact, doing and saying nothing will greatly assist us in this process. For guidance, just look to the Labor Party.
Sadly, not everyone knows how to be a quiet Australian.
That's why, to ensure a smooth transition to authoritarianism, we're launching a new initiative. Introducing
the Quiet Australia Policy. Under the Quiet Australia Policy, Australia will be home only to quiet people, such as quiet whistleblowers, because we're prosecuting all the loud ones who expose our shit fuckery, like how we abuse the tax system and defraud our neighbours, commit war crimes and spy on all of you.
We'll also have quiet journalists, because the ones who do their job by publishing those leaks will get their asses raided or thrown in jail to please our masters, because journalists aren't above the law, except when they publish what we leak to them for our political interests, in which case they are.
A quiet FOI agency, where if you lodge a request, you get
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Quiet charities, because if they dare to endorse a political party, we'll strip them of their tax-deductible status.
And quiet corporations. Just kidding. They can spend millions to buy politicians and we'll let them claim it as a tax deduction, because we believe in the free market.
Unless you use that freedom to boycott companies with ties to coal mines and climate-denying lobby groups, in which case we'll make boycotts illegal.
How good are quiet shoppers and quiet shareholders?
We also love quiet protesters, because nothing says free speech like some pepper spray in the fucking face.
Quiet school kids, because the little shits should be seen and not heard.
And now that everything's on fire thanks to our total paralysis on the climate crisis, we especially like quiet scientists.
You know, it's funny. Everyone says the Australians are most like us. They really are.
Right.
They really are. They're just like us. They're just like us with a funny accent and strange words for everything and wildlife that's trying to kill you. Now, this came out in 2021. I thought about this. What happened in 2020? What was going on in 2021? All right. This is something that she doesn't mention, and maybe because she's afraid to get a visit from the aforementioned repressive authoritarian police state. Now, listen, we have a nuanced view on a lot of this with what went on during COVID. But the Australians really did go nuts. Like, you had people getting arrested on their front lawn for not wearing a mask. Like, they went fucking insane. So this is one example on the beach. Actually, I believe this is Bondi.
Lying on the beach.
Yeah.
Please
Bondi.
remember, you are in breach of the public health order if you are not wearing your mask. Please put your mask on, otherwise fines will apply. Also remember, social distancing is vital. We're not out of this mess yet, and if you are outside of the 5-kilometre LGA, again you are in breach of the public health order. Thank you for complying, and thank you for helping us to keep the LGA safe.
There's to be no fornicating on the beach. Against public health protocols.
And if you are fornicating, wear your mask.
Wear your mask and do it from behind, so as not to exchange. What do they call them? Particles? What's the droplets? Droplets.
I mean, this is a fucking country where you could wake up to a spider the size of your hand on your face. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Living there is inherently unsafe.
They need masks for the fucking spiders. There is what they need. They need to put a fucking
dude. My first night in Australia, there was a spider literally the size of my hand.
Put masks on the spiders.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that would probably be more effective.
Yeah.
Now, I want to point this out because Caitlin Johnston, she sadly is very, very, very attuned to gender ideology in ways that I do not personally agree with. But not being a hypocrite, She called this out. This is back in 2023. Twitter currently censors some transphobic content in Australia per demands from Australia. E-Safety Commissioner. That's not too Orwellian. Here's some screenshots of what that content looks like from Australia. We may see a lot more of these notes if laws about misinformation on social media pass. So look, good on her. Good on her, because she is calling out that censorship, even though she describes it as transphobic content and, you know, disagrees with the things that they're blocking, but she doesn't support the censorship of it. So then in 2024, they passed this, and you might remember Elon kind of going to court with them about some of this. Australia threatens fines for social media giants enabling misinformation. Breaches face fines up to 5% of global revenue. Bill seeks to prevent election public health disinformation. Free speech advocates warn of censorship. So this actually passed in 2024, and in a recent exercise of the provisions of that law, Australia's e-safety commissioner, this is from October, just ordered X to censor posts about 2 political murders, threatening $825,000 per day in fines. What's being silenced isn't violence, it's political discussion. This is Kurt Malberg. Yeah, so that is happening there. This is Matthew Kamanzuli. Australia, get used to seeing this. More and more content that is available around the world is being blocked for Australian users. This is censorship. This is the Labor government and liberal opposition rigging the conversation in their favor. It has nothing to do with social cohesion, just the establishment trying to protect their power. And you see this video has been deleted, and several people have shared similar images. All right, so this video really blew up. This is the Attorney General of Australia explaining that, yeah, you could be prosecuted for saying Israel is committing a genocide under these new hate speech laws, which it seems is really the purpose of them.
If it creates fear,
if it accuses Israel.
What's up?
If it creates fear, if there's fear. I mean, the thing is, you know, Australian accent is, no offense to Australians, but it's a stupid accent. So when you say stupid things in a stupid accent, you sound extra stupid, right? It's not your fault your accent is stupid. You could be a smart Australian. But when you say dumb things in this accent, it sounds extra dumb, I feel like.
It's one thing to live in fear of a great white shark ripping you apart at the beach.
Yeah.
It's another thing to fear terrorism and misinformation.
Yeah, listen to
Would
this.
a group be banned if it accuses Israel of genocide or apartheid, and as a result, Jewish Australians do feel intimidated?
If those criteria are satisfied, then that is the case. If there is that fear, and if there is a reasonable person test in here as well, so if that is satisfied, then that would come within the scope of these provisions.
Okay.
Oh dear, I feel fear in here.
So yes, indeed, she confirms, even though she denied it previously, that yes, you could be prosecuted for saying Israel's committing a genocide. So a little more about this. This is the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, ABC, over there. Parliament has just passed the toughest federal hate speech laws in Australia's history. Labor has been open that the legislation introduced in the wake of the Bondi terror attack is primarily aimed at tackling hate groups that promote anti-Semitism, and that revisiting the laws to include other minority groups is not a priority. So this is purely about anti-Semitism. The legislation passed with liberal, if you're Islamophobic, you're good.
Right.
The legislation passed with Liberal Party support, though the Nationals, Greens, and One Nation voted against it, citing various concerns around free speech. Labor's draft legislation included a provision to criminalize the promotion or incitement of racial hatred, which was a recommendation of anti-Semitism envoy Jillian Siegel and broadly supported by Jewish groups. Despite calling for Ms. Siegel's report to be implemented in full, various coalition members raised concerns the draft bill would excessively impinge on free speech, a position shared by the Greens, constitutional lawyers, and various faith leaders. After both the coalition and Greens rejected the new offense, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese dumped it. Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke this week said the government would have liked the laws to be even stronger. But what is passed represented the strongest hate laws Australia's ever had. The laws grant power. All the Australians are going to complain about that accent.
Yeah.
The laws grant powers. I'm going to make Leon watch this segment when you clip it. The laws grant powers for the government to list so-called hate groups, more easily deport or cancel the visas of individuals associated with hate groups, increase penalties for hate crime offenses, and create new aggravated penalties for hate preachers and leaders who advocate violence. The legislation defines hate groups as organizations that publicly incite hatred or communal violence against a person or group due to their race or national or ethnic origin. Yeah, that's wide enough to drive a pro-Palestine protest through, right? I mean, you could very easily label a pro-Palestine protest that way if you want to. To be designated, the Home Affairs Minister must be satisfied that the group has engaged in, prepared, planned, or assisted in a hate crime, which is now defined as conduct that would, quote, cause a reasonable person to be intimidated, to fear harassment or violence, or fear for their safety. Now, if you've had any experience or if you've observed Zionist cry bullies in action, again, look at what they're doing to Miss Rachel. They will define reasonable person having reason to be intimidated well outside a reasonable boundary, but because of the political influence that they hold, as we will see, they're likely to be able to push that agenda. The government has said the changes are primarily intended to capture groups like neo-Nazi-aligned National Socialist Network and radical Islamist group Hizb ut-Tahrir, whose actions have so far fallen below the legal threshold of criminal conduct. Within hours of the legislation passing Parliament, Hizb ut-Tahrir erased its online presence, while the National Socialist Network announced it was disbanding last week in anticipation of the laws, which simply means, of course, they're going underground. The Greens, who voted against the legislation in the Senate, described these changes as a chilling attack on political debate, protest, and civil rights. This will silence legitimate criticism of foreign nations undertaking human rights abuses, Greens leader Larissa Waters said. It is not anti-Semitic to call out the actions of the Netanyahu regime in conducting a genocide. Barrister Greg Barnes said the laws would inevitably have unintended consequences and would fall subject to legal challenges. Quote, to be frank, when you read the bill, even to senior lawyers, it's unintelligible, he said. The great concern we have about banning organizations is there is no requirement for procedural fairness known as natural justice. The executive always has to be subject to checks and balances, including by the courts. Not to do so breaches the rule of law and is fundamentally undemocratic. Yeah, there is no real check on this. There is no legal recourse. They can decide that you are defined as a hate group, and there's an intelligence director that will decide if that clears muster, but it's all decided like within the government. There is no court check on their ability to, destroy your life based on them deciding that you were holding a Free Palestine sign and you made people fear for their lives. as a result. So, wow, Kristen Holden is quite a sweet summer child. He tags Mike Benz. He's an op, dude. He's an op. Elon Musk, he's a psychopath, dude. We need your help. Australia just got locked down and censored. We can no longer be honest on the internet. Please do your best to call out what the Australian government
they're going to get
has
right
done
on
to
that.
the people of Australia.
Yeah, Mike Benz and Elon Musk. They're going to get right on.
Oh
that
yeah,
for you.
they're going to come rescue.
They're very principled civil libertarians there.
Absolutely. Yeah. As was revealed, we never got to this story. Grok spilled the beans about who's getting suppressed on X. I'm one of them. I'm 40 to 60% suppressed on X. I'm a little insulted. Some people are 90% suppressed on X. Literally, nobody wanted these draconian new laws passed. Millions and millions of people sent in messages to senators telling them to block it. The opposition party said they were totally against it and then cut a last-minute deal to sell us all out. The mainstream media is, of course, exempt from all of these rules. We are truly fucked. The only hope we have now is the U.S. picks this up and pushes against it on our behalf.
What a sweet guy.
You poor baby. So I got news for you, man. Last week, Miami Beach mayor's office is now flagging citizens' Facebook posts and sending police to their doors to intimidate them for criticism of the mayor. Yeah, you're barking up the wrong. Elon didn't say anything about that. Do you hear him say anything about that? Listen, man, you should look up Elon. He got the call, man. He did the whole tour. He put on the kippah. He went to Auschwitz. They got him, man. I don't know what they got on him, but what? He has 64 kids with 27 women. I mean, I'm sure they got some shit on that guy because he got his mind right real quick. Interesting side note here, just to mention it, because WikiLeaks put this out right around the same time. Tax-deductible charities are sending Australian citizens money to Israeli military units and settlement projects in the occupied Palestinian territories. Maybe we'll follow this up on Tuesday. So why would that be? Why is there all this influence? Well, Jonathan Greenblatt offers a possible explanation for why Australia seems to be in the grip of Zionist puppet masters.
Leaders of the world's 7 largest Jewish communities convened in Australia as part of the 2025 J7 summit. This is a summit organized by ADL as part of the J7 task force to combat anti-Semitism, a convening of representative bodies of the largest Jewish communities on earth.
So the J7...
They met in Australia, and right after that, they passed this hate crime bill that they specifically said they're not interested in expanding it to include other groups. They're only interested in addressing specifically anti-Semitism. Now, I got to say, in spite of the fact that I have more experience with Australia and Australians than the average Americans, I don't get it. Because Australia, if you deal with the Australian people, they're very outdoorsy. They're very, you could say, freedom loving. They're very physical. They're very robust people.
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange. It's very strange that they would generate such a repressive government as they seem to have. Because again, this is not the beginning. This is part of a pattern of a lot of censorship and suppression of speech in Australia. It's just I honestly I don't have an explanation for it. I don't understand how that culture, like having dealt with Australian people, I don't get how they wind up with a government like this, especially because you do have a system in Australia where you get fined if you don't vote. So they have like an 80% voting rate. So it's not a question of only the Yentas vote.
Right.
And so you get this kind of a government. I don't know how they wound up like this. I don't get it. Maybe an Australian can explain it to me.
Yeah, maybe George will call in. Although is it
Yeah.
George's bedtime now because we're on at a weird time?
Yeah,
Maybe
we're on at a weird
maybe
time for him.
George is not going to join us. But yeah, no, I mean, look, it's just obviously so ridiculous. You can't make someone's feelings the criteria for what
It's very
constitutes
woke.
criminal behavior. I mean, that's the wokest thing ever. Oh, if there's fear, if they fear violence, well, anybody could say they fear
It's
violence.
not for you to decide whether
Yeah.
they were in fear. If
Well,
they
this whole
felt like they were in
assumption-
fear, they were in fear.
Yeah, exactly. And then this whole assumption of reasonableness. Well, a reasonable person. Well, by their standards, Jonathan
Right.
Greenblatt is a reasonable person. So what?
Right.
If he says
Right.
he's afraid, that means you committed a crime because he says you made him afraid. I mean, it's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous, of course. All right. Hey, we got Jake in the chat. Round of applause for Jake in the booth, I should say, not in the chat. He joined us late today, had some commitments that I guess he kept, even though it is really coming down now. The snow is really coming down in a huge way. Let's take some Rumble rants over here. I can't wait for them to all start screaming about some Chinese faction of Hamas, says Vianticus Prime. Virtuoso says breaking paid Zionist influencer and Simon Phoenix cosplayer Xavier DeRousseau hospitalized after encounter with group of black Israelites who overheard him say, quote, "What's up, my migas?" Is that a joke, Virtuoso? That's a good joke.
Is that a joke?
But it would be funnier if true. Sent you fuck it design now too. Look at that. Ravid Laz on demand merch design. I agree about the Australian accents. The main reason why Margot Robbie's mid. She's mid. RFK Jr. Remember the 90s rumor of Richard Gere having a gerbil stuck up his ass. Well, I went to Australia one year, slept naked one night, and one of those spiders, hid somewhere. I'm no church boy. Thank you, Ravid Laz.
And it ain't half my brain.
Yeah. Define reasonable as fitting into whatever reason I could think of to suit me, regardless of its validity. Thank you, Vianticus. Appreciate that. All right, folks, we're going to go to some super chats, and then we will head over to the Q&A. Before we do, though, tomorrow is Monday, which means a new episode of the Grifter's Bible comes out, and it's a snow day for many of you, so get caught up while you're there. Follow the First Electric Church of Jesus Christ as they combine the bleeding edge of black patented neuroscience with the state-of-the-art in Michigan to beat the Great Recession. They sell visions of God to the huddled masses of Deep Ellum, Texas, and the money pours in until the local competition, the police, and the U.S. Navy put a stop to it. There's ass whoopings, car chases, and a showdown at high noon on Good Friday in Dodge City. It's sci-fi noir, a picaresque thriller, and a Western from 10 minutes in the future. It's The Grifter's Bible, and it is a film series by El Shabooms with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. New episodes are posted every Monday at youtube.com at El Shabooms. That's youtube.com/at El Shabooms. Sorry, I messed up the link there. I'll put it up there so you guys all have that. Catch up on some episodes tomorrow while you're all snowed in. youtube.com/at El Shabooms. All right, we are going to be going over to Rumble in just a couple minutes. Patrons are welcome to call in. Everybody else is welcome to come and hang and chat in the chat and watch dudissidents.com/Rumble. That's the link that takes you directly to the live stream. And please smash that subscribe button while you're here. We had a great crowd today. We had over 2,700 for most of the stream. We've got 2,250 now. Big audience on a Sunday morning.
Man, the Sunday morning's always hot.
Sunday mornings are hot. That's right. All right.
You want to watch? You want to watch us? You want to watch Kristen Welker?
That's right. We're competing
It's
with
no
Meet the
brainer.
Press.
It's no brainer. Peter Monahan, Gator Pete, so fucking cold. My car battery is dead. Fuck, no money for a new one. Won't get my SSDI until February 21st. Fuck my life, but I will remain positive. Please clap. Thank you, Keaton and Russell. Well, I mean, doesn't
Clap
it just
for
need
Peter.
to jump? So when I lived in Chicago, man, it was almost like it was a community expectation that people with the vans and the trucks had to jump all the cars.
In the cold. Yeah.
Yeah, because their batteries didn't die. They had those bigger batteries. But everybody else would be dead in the morning. JDE Santis. Russell, thanks for staying up for this. Keaton, stay warm. Love you both. Thank you.
All right.
And
you.
finally, Bonzo Kilborn. Keaton, have you heard the New York accent lately?
Yeah, the New York accent is not the best, you know. New York, Australia, both rugged accents for sure. All right, everybody. That's our show. We want to thank you very much for being here. Patrons can start the calling queue, and we have a special intermission tribute to the late, great Michael Parenti for your viewing pleasure while we take a 5-minute break. We are back Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thanks to the YouTubers and the Rumblers and the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. Thanks for joining us for the early show. If you're hanging out for the Q&A, the link is dudissidents.com/rumble. Otherwise, we'll see you all Tuesday afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern. Until whenever we see you again, thanks for being here today. Be safe and be well.
Crab con carb.
No fear. No fear.
No fear. No fear.
fear.
Please clap.